Okay, we will call this regular meeting to order. I apologize for us being just a couple minutes behind. If I could have everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Keep it a little light, just so you know. Last month we weren't in sync. We were much more in sync this month, so thanks. That was excellent. So, welcome to everybody who is in the audience tonight. We appreciate you being here. And for anybody who is watching online, we also appreciate you being willing to interact and be a part of the district. So thank you to everybody who's here. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Certainly have lots of green in the room, so happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone. We do need, from a board member, an adoption for tonight's agenda, please.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for tonight's agenda. Is there any discussion on tonight's agenda? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We're going to move on to 2.01. This is our superintendent's report for March, and we'll turn it over to Dr. Buck.
Good evening, everybody, and good evening, Board of Education. I have several things I want to point out. So there are quite a few. I think there's 18 now, Sum It Up podcasts, if you want to go out there and listen to them. And the latest one is by Jeff Buckner. And Jeff is going into our entry into registered youth apprenticeship with JCI Industries. So JCI has been a great partner of ours. They actually send an employee once a week over to our metalworkings class, and the kids are making parts, and if they pass the qualifications, it actually will be used in products that JCI produces. But so this allows a child, then a student of ours, to go get work experience, get get high school credit, same time they're getting paid. So this is our entry into registered youth apprenticeship, which is only about 13 of them in the state of Missouri. So thank you for Jeff for setting that up. And that's a big part of our push to have graduates, as many as we can, earn a market value asset before they graduate, and which is a regional push in the Kansas City area that was originally kind of instigated by the Kauffman Foundation. And prior to this year, I think 52% of our graduates having a market value asset was a record for us. After first semester, our current graduates are over 70%, and we think by the end of this next semester, we'll have over 80% of our graduates this year having a market value asset. So, thank you to Shannon Booth and her team and everybody in the high schools for helping us get there. So, and kudos to the kids, because that's above and beyond a high school diploma. We do have some Special Olympic regional basketball events this last month, and individual skills. We have 2 students, and then we have the team, the LS Vipers. They like to call themselves the LS Vipers of Doom. Their official team is just Vipers, but they had the shirt, LS Vipers of Doom. They're competing in the state championship tomorrow and Saturday. I think there's some archers also that went to state from elementary today. And then we also have our team of cyber patriots, so competing in cybersecurity. There's about 3,500 teams nationwide. The final 12 are competing this weekend for the national championship, and one of those teams is right here from Lee Summit. It has kids from all 3 high schools, so good luck to all those. Congratulations to all those and the accomplishments they've had so far. I'm going to skip down and let you know that tomorrow night we have a unique event. So we have a new baseball field for Lee Summit High School with the turf, and it's over there off of Bailey Road, and you're going to hear a little bit about the middle school renovation here later tonight, but that turf is ready to go, and so we're having an alumni baseball game. So all alumni who played baseball in the past, 5 o'clock is a sign-in. The game starts at 6 o'clock, so we're very excited about that event, and if anybody can do an anti-rain dance, that would be great. Yes, it's a turf field. We can play in the rain, but at my age, I know if I was playing out there, I might pull something if I was in the rain. So do an anti-rain dance if you could. And then last thing I want to mention right now is that one of our board members, yet another one, has achieved the level of what they call Master Board certifications through the Missouri School Board Association. So join me in congratulating Vice President Megan Marshall.
Thank you, Dr. Buck. Appreciate that. We're going to move on to our presentations and recognitions tonight. So we are at 3.01. We are going to start with our school spotlight on Greenwood Elementary. And so I think we will just turn it over to Principal Johnson here to introduce Greenwood.
All right. My name is Rachel Johnson, proud principal of the Greenwood Wildcats. And we have a very short video to share with you. Two of my three co-narrators are here, so I'm going to have them come on up here. So please welcome Shayna Farias and Claire Keaton. Our third co-narrator couldn't be here with us tonight, but you'll get to hear his voice and see him at the end of our presentation. So we have a video that we're going to play for you.
Greenwood Elementary. In this short but amazing video, we will be sharing 3 things that make Greenwood so special.
Our history, our people, our present. My name is Cameron. My name is Shayna. My name is Claire.
And my name is Mrs. Johnson, and we will be your guides to Greenwood.
Did you know that our school wasn't always named Greenwood Elementary? It started as a grammar school and high school together. The building was built in 1910. It was known as Whiffen Hall and taught students in grades 1 through 12. Just to check in on what was happening in 1910 when Whiffen Hall was built, a postage stamp cost 1 penny. Believe it or not, it only cost 1 penny to mail a letter. It was just 2 years after the Model T Ford was introduced and 3 years before the invention of the electric refrigerator that everyone uses today. In 1937, additional classrooms and a gym were added to the school. The basketball court in the gym was known as the finest high school facility in the area. The basketball teams were called the Wildcats, which is why we are the Wildcats today. In spring 1950, Greenwood School graduated its last school senior class because in the fall of 1950, the school joined the Lee Summit School District and became Greenwood Elementary.
On September 18, 1950, just weeks after the start of the K-6 school year, this letter was sent to all Greenwood families. It started with, "We, the teachers of the Greenwood School, are well pleased with school in the opening days. We hope that you, the parents, are too. We also hope that you will take a lively interest in this school year." The letter goes on to discuss one big problem with the start of school, and that was that students were not taking part in the school lunch program. In previous years, the students were used to leaving the building and walking into town to get lunch or treats. As stated in the letter, the highway presented a real safety problem, and we needed to encourage students to eat lunch at school. It even went so far as to say ice cream bars and candy bars were available in the cafeteria after the lunch period. The letter concludes to say, "The school cafeteria is in operation, and soon we hope to have in your home the menu as planned for the week. A good, warm, well-balanced meal is a bargain for 20 cents. We hope all children will avail themselves of this opportunity." And as if this letter in history isn't neat enough, let's take a quick look at who wrote it. Signed, the teachers of Greenwood School and W.J. Underwood, Director of Elementary Education. This was one of Dr. William Joseph Underwood's letters during his time as Assistant Superintendent.
We've got a few more years of history to review. In 1965, we got another edition because LSR7 continued to grow. It now costs 5 cents to mail a letter. The Sound of Music came out, and the Gateway Arch was finally completed in St. Louis. But back in Greenwood, the school expanded to include a cafeteria and many more classrooms. This section of the building is now the main entrance and the center of the school.
In 1978, we got another gigantic addition in the back of the building. The section now holds our 5th and 6th grade classrooms. Greenwood Elementary was serving all of Leaf Summit's students who lived south of 50 Highway. Our school grew to almost 800 students before Trail Ridge opened in 1993. Oh, and for a pop culture check, a stamp was 13 cents, and everyone was watching Happy Days. In 2002, Greenwood's library was built, and we enjoyed it every day. Today, there are 6 schools serving students south of 50 Highway.
Whew, that was a lot of history. 112 years and 3 minutes. Wow. Now that we know the history of our building, let's get to another great thing about Greenwood Elementary, our people. Take a look at this computer lab in 1996. Fancy, huh? And look at the 5th grade class in 1983. Well, guess what? The student in the computer lab is Mrs. Rath. She now works at Greenwood. I just saw her at recess today. And as for Stephanie Miller, she is now Mrs. Cornelius, and she teaches 4th grade at GWE.
Okay, let's keep diving in. Do these three former Wildcats look familiar? That's Miss Shipley, Miss Former, and Mr. Grego. They were all students that became teachers at GWE. Mr. Grego is my teacher. His grandma went to Greenwood School when it was a 1st to 12th grade school. Then his dad went to Greenwood, and Mr. Grego was here in the 1990s. And what's really cool now is that his son Bennett just came to kindergarten this year. So Bennett is a 4th generation Greenwood school kid.
I guess what we're trying to say is that Greenwood has always felt like a family. It's a school that feels like a home, and people are drawn back to us. Take Linda Clark. Linda Clark taught at Greenwood for 31 years, and now that she's retired, we see her back almost every other week to sub in our classrooms. Also, folks that retire from Greenwood come back to support kids and staff in other ways, through our great team. They might host a luncheon during parent-teacher conferences, or volunteer to come read with students, because everyone knows Greenwood retired educators are terrific.
Now let's get to one more thing that makes GWE so great, our kids. When Mrs. Johnson asked us to help with this video, she asked us what we liked most about going to school here. We all had the same first answer. Our teachers, obviously, but right after our teachers, we said our friends.
I feel like our teachers are always happy to be here with us at school. I feel like everyone here is respectful and kind.
And when we think about school this year, we don't think about the pandemic. We think about our school families, which we call Wildcat Dens.
Our Wildcat Dens have about 11 or 12 kids in them. We've learned teamwork while making cool structures like marshmallows and toothpicks. We've learned cooperation and the importance of listening while we navigated a blindfolded student through the classroom. It has been so fun this year to work with the younger kids. We've gotten to help them be better listeners. I love how grateful they are. Whenever we get to do den time and I go pick up my 1st grader, she holds my hand the whole way there. It's just one more way to feel like we all belong at Greenwood.
Thanks for watching our journey through Greenwood's amazing history, learning a little bit about our people, and for being excited with us about where we are today.
Thank you for letting us share a little bit about our home at Greenwood Elementary School. An 8-minute video took us about an hour and a half to record because I think we just giggled most of the way through. But we did not subject you to the blooper reel of all of my typos. So you're welcome for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. That was fantastic. 3.02, this is going to be Lee Summit West High School School Spotlight. And so we will turn it over to Dr. Chad Herzog, who can introduce everyone who is with him tonight.
I did. So I felt, oh, they already left. That's too bad. So I'm a proud Wildcat, a proud Greenwood alum. I got left off of that video. 1985, I started there, so I feel a little bit left out. But no, Greenwood Elementary is a wonderful place. My grandfather was actually there when it was a high school as well. So wonderful. I'm glad they did that tonight. I'm really excited to be here tonight to talk about Lee Summit West a little bit. We chose to focus not on the whole school, but on one program of our school that we're extremely proud of. I'm going to introduce some folks who are going to come in and talk a little bit about our AVID program. I'm going to let them do most of the talking because they're the ones doing the work in the class each day. But let me just say this. 4 years ago, at the end of my first year at West, myself and some of our teachers and staff members went out to a AVID Summer Institute. And it was truly just kind of almost like life-changing in terms of our focus. We changed our focus a little bit out there, and AVID became a clear focus that we needed to move into our school community. This group you're going to see tonight, it's a special group, some of them because this is the first senior class of students who have gone through 4 years of the AVID program at West. They are very excited to share their story with you, and I'm very excited for them to share that as well. I'm going to introduce our AVID elective teacher and math teacher at Lee's Summit West, Sterling Edwards. You can make your way over here, Coach Edwards. He is our AVID 9 teacher and then also AVID 12 teacher. He is going to start the program off, and I think he has quite a few students who are going to help him tonight as well. So, Sterling Edwards.
Thank you. Come on in, guys. So yeah, we really appreciate the opportunity to, we have drank the Kool-Aid with the AVID program, and we could talk for a long, long time about this, and we're going to try to condense it here to about 10 minutes. But you know, we love the AVID program, and so what I want to talk about before we do the introductions and let the kids talk, and really I want to let them talk more than anything, but just a real quick overview on what is AVID. And AVID is a college readiness program. Okay, it's a 4-year program, and like Dr. Herzog said, this is our first graduating class coming up. So you're going to hear from 3 of our seniors who have been in the program for 4 years, and you're going to hear from some of our underclassmen as well. So it is a class in their schedule every day. Okay, it is an elective class, and so in that class, again, it's a place of high expectations. It's a place to wonder and explore. It's an accelerated program. Okay. We are pushing these kids to take classes that maybe push them out of their comfort zone a little bit, but then behind the scenes we're supporting them within the AVID classroom, teaching them strategies, teaching them some study skills, and supporting them that way. And so it's a place to build skills and develop behaviors that lead to success. And so we're going to do some introductions. We have 2 of our AVID elective teachers with us today, Marissa Tucker and Ashley Jones, and they teach we have 2 AVID 10 classes, and they each have one of those, and then Matt Welch also is one of our AVID elective teachers who couldn't be here tonight and teaches our AVID 11 class. Okay, and so with that, I'm going to take the microphone down to the other end and let some of these guys introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Addison Kirkham. I'm a sophomore in AVID. I am involved with multiple choirs at West, and I am also the girls varsity basketball manager. And my plans for after high school are undecided.
Hi, my name is Bria Carradine. I'm a sophomore at West, and I am in chamber orchestra. I run girls track and girls cross country.
Hi, I'm Avery Doherty. I'm an AVID student at Lee's Summit West. I'm a sophomore, and my plans after high school are to go to Missouri State and major in interior design.
Hi, I'm Shikimi Bex-Banjo. I do Kindness Council, and I also have symphonic orchestra, and my plans after high school would be to go get a major in biochemistry.
My name is Amari Gant. I'm a sophomore. I am in ROTC, and I plan to possibly pursue a military career.
Hi, I'm Max, and I'm a junior, and I play football, track, and lacrosse. And in college, I plan to just play football in college.
Hi, I'm Dylan. I'm a junior. I am in our school's esports team, and I plan to be a game designer.
Hi, my name is Marsha Madden. I'm a junior at West. I plan to pursue a career in social working and counseling, and at school I do Harmony Council, BSU, and Kindness Council.
Hi, my name is Riley Biggie. I am a senior at Lee's Summit West, and I plan on going to Northwest Missouri State to major in elementary ed with a minor in special ed, and then I will also be a part of the Grow Your Own program.
Hi, my name is Lily Frazier. I'm also an AVID senior at Lee's Summit West. I plan on going to the University of Missouri and majoring in marketing and double minoring in Spanish and digital media.
My name is Brady Bertho. I also plan on attending the University of Missouri. I will be pursuing a major in elementary education and a minor in special education, so I'm pretty excited for that. I'm also part of the Grow Your Own program with Riley. It's also yay. And I think that's about it.
And so with that, these last four that spoke, we're going to have them talk a little bit more about what goes on in the AVID classroom. So Marche, if you'd go ahead and step up to the podium here. And
So one of the biggest things in AVID is organization. We kind of relearn how to learn, how to organize, because growing up, like a lot of us do not learn how to study or organize our binders. We kind of just stuff stuff in folders. So one of the big things that we do is tutorials, which is each week we all gather in groups of usually 7, and we each present and say, we don't know how to do this. Now, when we first did it, it was very nerve-wracking because we didn't, you don't ever want to admit that you're wrong. You don't ever want to stand up in front of people and tell your peers, like, I don't know how to do this. But as we all kept doing it, as we kept going and kept encouraging each other, it becomes more and more comfortable, and you are able to build a community with that. So another big thing is the focused note-taking process. The first big one is taking the notes, but beyond that, we process notes. So we go back through them, we highlight key points, pull out important information. We connect thinking to things that we've learned prior to maybe in that class or things that we've learned outside in the real world. Summarizing and reflecting on learning is big for us because sometimes you just need to condense things down to where you're not having all of this information all at once because not everything is important. And then being able to apply that learning to projects, tests, homework, things like that.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking about a little bit of the community service project that we did back in November. So we raised about $2,000 to feed a homeless shelter here in Kansas City. And we were able to go down there and serve the community and get to work with these people who are underprivileged. And we got to hands-on work with people who are in our community, but also just need a little extra support. And throughout the night, we were able to meet hundreds of people who benefited from our fundraising.
So with AVID, we are encouraged to take classes that allow us to get more experience in the real world. So for example, Riley and I both attend Summit Technology Academy, me for digital media and her for education. Without AVID, I can say for both Riley and I don't think that we would have had the courage to take these classes. We also are both IBCP candidates, so only about 11 people from the high school get this when they graduate. You have to take rigorous IB courses, and you have to go to Summit Technology. You have to have at least, I think it's a 3.5 unweighed GPA. So it's really hard to do, and through AVID, we have been able to do things that we never thought we could do. So.
All right, so another part of the AVID program is getting ready for college. It is a college readiness program. And so we focus on this starting as early as our freshman year in high school. We start by doing things such as the college campus visits. Just because of COVID, just the seniors, we've only been to a couple colleges, which isn't ideal. But for the freshmen and the sophomores, they've gotten a good opportunity since we've been able to come back to school. And with that, we've actually visited a couple of colleges like UCM, Mizzou, KU, which is really exciting. Another thing we do is get ready for the ACT and also how to take the ACT. We learned that in our sophomore year, and that is a really good skill because a lot of times, especially for juniors and seniors, their first time taking the ACT, they're not prepared at all. But with the AVID program, we are set up at least 2 years in advance to be ready to take this test and hopefully get the maximum score we can get in our first or second try. We also prepare for things such as the FAFSA and scholarship applications because, as many people know, FAFSA is a very sometimes not fun thing to fill out. So just kind of looking into what exactly we need to fill out, like all the paperwork you need, is really helpful. We also learn about scholarships. Part of the AVID class, especially your senior year, is to fill out 2 scholarships every month. This is just to help you kind of get out there and see what opportunities for money you have for these colleges. And that's something I personally have benefited from. I've gotten a lot of money from doing these scholarships, so I'm very excited for that. And then the last thing that we do is our college applications. Hopefully by our senior year through the AVID program, we've been exposed to colleges and enough colleges that we can kind of narrow down our decisions. So by our senior year, we're applying for those colleges and hopefully getting in. So that's another exciting part. And then up here, we included some of the colleges that our AVID 12 students will be attending. So Mizzou, Arkansas, and UCM, just to name a few. And we also have Longview. If a lot of our AVID seniors are not going to a 4-year college, but instead to a community college or going to a trade school. So AVID also exposes us to that option if we don't want to go to a 4-year college, what our plans after high school are going to be.
Thank you. So you can tell, you know, these kids are excited about it. One thing that I didn't mention before is you know, AVID isn't like for a gifted program, okay? But don't tell these kids that, because I mean they think after they go through the AVID program, and you heard them talking about the courses they take and things like that, that you know they end up in those classes that maybe they didn't think they were going to be able to take, and so that's exciting for me. And one thing that, you know, if we did this presentation a couple months from now, I'm certain of it, that our senior class, 100% of them are going to get accepted to 4-year colleges, and we're going to have, you know, huge numbers of scholarships, dollar values that we're excited to announce. And so there's just some crazy exciting things that are happening, and appreciate. And it's, you know, like I said, this is the first senior class, and so when they graduate here in a few months, it's going to be an emotional night for all of us involved. And along those ends, you know, none of this is possible without support from administration. Dr. Herzog has been a huge advocate of the program from the beginning. Dr. Potts as well. It's just exciting to see the great things that are going on, and the lives that we're changing here as these kids go on to bigger and better things after high school. And we appreciate the opportunity to share our story tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Edwards, before they even walk out, how many kids total at West are in AVID right now?
So yeah, we've got, I think the number is 88 is the total. So
okay,
we've got
that's
5
awesome.
classes.
I just wanted people to know that, right? That there's a lot of people that are in the program. So sorry, I didn't mean to stop you. So yeah, that's fantastic. So
thank you.
Hey, on that point, I'm just curious to know, is that offered at all of our high schools?
Yes, and then this summer, our middle schools are going to AVID training, so it will be at the middle school level as well coming forward.
Perfect, thank you.
he was ahead of both of us right there. So there we go. Okay, we are going to thank you to everybody who came for those presentations and recognitions. We are going to move on to item 4.01. This is our public comments for tonight. I'm just joking. I'm totally joking. We're going to go to 3.03 because we do need to and want to hear about East Trails Middle School. So the guys from McCown-Gordon, I'm sorry. That's my bad. So we do have representatives from McCown-Gordon who are going to take us through all of the work that's going on at the middle school. And then those of you who are here for public comment, then we'll hear from you. So, gentlemen, if you would like to take us through the slide presentation, that'd be great.
So, real quick, before we get started, McCown-Gordon has brought cookies for School Board Appreciation Week, so enjoy.
Oh boy.
I've heard they're really good.
Right here. We'll pass them out at the end of the meeting, okay? And then there will be 0 left. So there you go.
I say let's give them to the kids outside.
Oh no.
Okay, Ryan, you can get a cookie.
Thank you very much. All right.
One more thing before we get started. Whitney, the new principal for the East Trails Middle Schools, brought out about 80+ teachers, and they've toured, and everybody is very excited about this new school. So So here's kind of a overall drone picture of the entire site. We're making really good progress. And actually they had this is a drone picture of the kids playing baseball in the new field, the turf field. They had their jamboree. I think that was Monday, and it went really, really good. Another picture of the baseball field. And then this is the main entry and west side of the new school. We're getting sidewalks in, glass and frames in. I'll let DeAndre take it from here.
All right, so this is our wood ceiling. This is in a few areas of the school, but it's pretty neat. I think it's in the main commons area also. This is a restroom, you see? So we got tile and sinks going in right now, so it's pretty exciting. It's pretty nice to me. So this is a storefront. We got glass in now. Pour some concrete down there. It's one of the entries. This is a picture of our wood soffit panels that's going in. You kind of see them back there. I think it's another picture. See a little better there. Yeah, those are pretty nice also. And this is a picture of our kitchen equipment. It's being installed now. I think we're starting to hook everything up maybe next week or the following week. So we'll have all electrical and plumbing hooked up to this in the next couple weeks. This is our locker rooms. I'll let Jeff go ahead and
Yeah, so this is the locker room. We're actually going to be starting epoxy floors in here next week. And then this is one of the band or orchestra rooms. Then this is the competition gym. We've actually got it about halfway painted now. And then this is in the auxiliary gym. We've got basketball goals up. And the first week of April, the wood floor shows up, and it'll acclimate for a week, and then we'll start installing the wood floors. Any questions on the East Trails Middle School?
I have one. I just wondered how you are on your schedule.
We're looking good.
Good. Glad to hear that.
on time.
We're gonna meet the date.
In fact, they have furniture in May starting to arrive, and they're preparing for that.
And then we've also got the interceptor work, the sewer work going. That's also part of this project. And if you've driven down Bailey Road, we've got the road improvement work going and the signal light stuff going. So we're getting that road widening portion started also. So everybody bear with us on Bailey Road.
It looks awesome, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board Member Sparks, go ahead.
I'm just curious, when the teachers took the tour, were there anything that really just stood out to them that they were excited about?
Pretty much everything. I don't know if you've seen their Twitter and Facebook posts, but they were very excited. It was awesome.
Thank you for all your hard work.
And we look forward to when you are finished and it's time for us to take a tour. We would love that. Thanks, guys.
Done?
I'm Bobby Vihanic. I'm superintendent over Pleasantly, mainly helping out on the other Summit Lakes and Bernard Campbell. So Summit Lakes Middle School, a few pictures we have going here. So right before it warmed up, we were able to get the rooftop unit set on top of the new addition. So as you can see, the new addition, the black that's on there, it's the air barrier, so everything's getting watertight and getting ready to start brick here pretty quick on the new addition here. I think these are mainly just classrooms, if I remember right. So this area is an area we started just a little bit ago. This is an addition onto the music room, the orchestra. So we were able to tear down an existing exterior wall. That's where you see that blue tarp is over there. Nice temporary wall there, and then it comes around, and we got some doors and windows to cut in yet over there. So that's the slab getting poured down, and which actually started the block, which isn't in here, so that's great. But the block's going up, I promise, up on that side there. So, and then on the inside of the new addition, starting to, we got all framed in, everything roughed in, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing and all that. And starting to do some topping out of some sheetrock so we can start getting rest of the ductwork and everything else up in there. So looking really good at Summit Lakes there. Trying to get that big goal is to try to get that new addition about wrapped up before summer work starts on the inside for the renovation. So Pleasantly, here's a drone shot, fairly recent drone shot of Pleasantly, the new main entrance. The roofing has been completed as of this week here, so now we're dried in. Feeling good about that. Working on our air barrier, and then brick comes up after that. So doing really well on the exterior there. It's a nice addition onto the school. Inside of the school here, this is in the administration area, so framing is going up, and again, like Summit Lakes, a lot of the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, everything's going in. Getting ready for some sheetrock here pretty quick. Roof of area A. This is over the administration wing. Roofing going in there. And yeah.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tyler Dalrymple, project manager with McCown Gordon. I'm overseeing all three of these middle school renovation projects. The last we have for you tonight is Bernard Campbell Middle School. This is the smallest of the three additions. As you can see, currently we are working on our envelope. We've got the black as air barrier, that's complete. We're working on the brick now. So largely the addition is the work that we're doing at Bernard Campbell. Once it hits summer, we'll have a lot of renovation work within the facility, but for now we're really working hard on the addition. As you can see, we've got framing up. It's a block structure with a little bit of metal framing. Overhead rough-in is largely complete. In-wall rough-in is going on, and we're getting ready here for drywall very soon. So that area, this is a band addition, will be complete very soon. And that's all we had. Was there any questions?
Questions or comments on any of the schools? Board Member Fritchie?
Yes, I think you said that that's the smallest addition on Campbell, but the basement of the main classroom section then is going to be converted into classrooms. Is that correct?
Yes, and that work is actually going on now, the basement work. We started a little bit early. The bulk of the work in that facility will happen in the summertime once the kids and faculty are out.
Okay, and then I also wanted to ask about the Summit Lakes addition. That's going on the north side, is that right?
Yes.
Of the building?
Yep.
And is that the 6th grade area? Is that the designated 6th grade?
I think it's a 6th grade area, yes.
6th grade on the north side, yeah. And then you've got the addition of, I know where the music room's going because my daughter's the vocal music teacher there.
Okay.
And she told me she had to clean out the music office because you guys were tearing out that, okay. But that's great. And of course, I love seeing Pleasantly Middle School and that new facade. I think everybody got used to seeing that 1970s vintage canopy out there. And it's really cool that, I just absolutely love what you're doing with Pleasantly. It's deserved a makeover for quite some time, and I know that the staff there is really excited about it too. All 3 schools, all 4 schools. So just great. So happy for all of our middle schoolers out there.
Yeah, and all 3 of the renovation projects are on schedule, so they're looking good.
That's great because we have had some questions. People are going, are they going to be finished on time? So. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. It's fantastic. Oh, just get it done on time. Okay, now we really are going to go to 4.01. That's going to be our public comment section tonight, and we will turn it over for the instructions for those who are going to give comment tonight to our parliamentarian, Dr. Hedrick. Dr. Hedrick?
Thank you. We appreciate your attendance and your willingness to speak to the board. Please remember that while this is a public meeting, this part of the meeting does not contemplate a conversation between speakers and board members. The board does not respond to public comments during the meeting, but may ask clarifying questions. Your comments will be noted by the board, and if appropriate, we will direct the subject to the administrators who are responsible for that particular subject matter. Pursuant to board policy BDDH, we will be limiting all comments to no more than 10 people with a limit of 3 minutes each. Your allotted 3 minutes will be counted down on the screen. Please conclude your comments when the timer expires. Only those who have signed up prior to the meeting will be allowed to address the board. Please refrain from using the names of any students or staff in your remarks. Remain respectful and ensure your comments pertain to district operations. We also ask all audience members to remain respectful. Lastly, when your name is called, please go to the podium and clearly state your name and the organization you represent, if any.
Thank you, Dr. Hedrick. As we've done in previous meetings, we will call the first speaker, and then we'll always say who is next, so essentially who is on deck. So our first speaker tonight will be Larry Anderson, and we are using the podium that is right over there by the doors. So Larry Anderson, and our second speaker is LaTriviette Grant.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to come before the board. And I wanted to share a few things that I think are important. First of all, I've noticed and watched you guys over the last few months, and I've really been inspired by how you've handled yourself. You know, as a parent who has a child in this district, I want to thank you for your dedication and commitment. I've been in your shoes, and I know the amount of time it takes for you to do your job well. I also know why you do this. You do this because you want to support a winning team, and LSR7 is a winning team. I've been in your shoes, and I know what you're thinking, and I know that it's hard to listen to all of the people who come before you. You've been called names, you've been ridiculed, and you've been accused of lying. And I'm truly sorry that you have to endure that in these modern times. But I am very impressed with your courage and your mental toughness. It takes courage to listen and not react. It takes mental toughness to prioritize student achievement in spite of the noise. So thank you. I also want to recommend that you adopt, and I'm sure you will, the salary presentations that are coming on tonight. And I also believe the Team Lee Summit worked very hard to produce those recommendations. But we know that effective boards must be forward-thinking, and we must anticipate challenges that are coming up. And our challenge is already here, as you know, and that's hiring quality teachers. I believe the best way that we can stay on top of this district is to promote pay and incentives for our teachers. So I know we need to be fiscally responsible, but I truly encourage the board in the near-term future to make that a priority, because I believe that's the best tool we're going to have to meet that priority. And finally, as a parent of the public, I'm proud of my school district, and I know that it's among the best in the country and the state. So I ask the community to step up and support the schools as I do, and I'm proud to be a part of the community and always ready to support. Thank you.
Our second speaker is LaTriviette Grant, and our next speaker after Mrs. Grant will be Bess Hales.
I've come to talk about, I hear a lot of parents complaining about the board, the district, the teachers, and I'm just kind of concerned that their concerns are more banes to their life versus seen it as an opportunity to shine. As parents, stop blaming the board, stop blaming the teacher, stop blaming the district. Blame yourself. Kids aren't looking to the district, they're not looking to the teachers, they're not looking to the board, they're looking to the parents. And I just noticed that the parents constantly are putting the blame elsewhere instead of doing something about it. Like, for instance, the mask mandate. Being vituperative and berating the board and everything else, that's not a good example for your kids. Your kids are going to do what they see you doing. So if you're acting like that way, and like the gentleman said before, how they're tearing down the board and criticizing them, they think that's the way to do things when things aren't going their way. That's the problem in schools. CRT is not the problem, it's the parents that are the problem. Kids that are raised in a home where parents are teaching them a positive way of handling their situations are going to reflect that by their words. And they're not going to be affected by actions of racism. They're not going to be affected because they know their self-worth, because they got that at home. Kids that are free and have high self-worth will be a lot more, they'll be the teacher's prize or joy. They'll be like the prized possession. My boys are their teacher's favorites. They're respectful. They don't tear down other kids. When situations arise in the classroom that other kids are going, my sons are sitting there like calm. They're not affected because I teach that to them, how I handle my situations. I mean, it's not just school. There's your job life. How are you handling it? Are you taking it out on your kids? I mean, during the mask mandate, I am extremely against the mask. We had movie night. We had s'mores every Friday night. I spray eucalyptus and spearmint on their pillows. I made them feel comfortable and loved. So when they go to school, that's what the teachers got. One of my 5th grade teacher told me, he is the most polite, respectful student I have. He says, yes, ma'am, he's polite. At home, he's different. But it's okay, because I want them to be wild and wily at home. So that way, when they go to school, they're polite and they're their teacher's favorites. My 5-year-old, his teacher told me, oh, he's so adorable and enjoyable. What do you do? What's your secret? I said, I love them. I keep my stress from them. And that's what I just want to say. Parent, that's where it starts. And thank you, guys.
Our next speaker is Bess Hales, followed by Adriana Paez.
Hello, thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Bess Hales, and I'm here tonight speaking as the sponsor for the newly formed Black Student Union at Lee Summit High School. Now you might be thinking, you are the sponsor of the Black Student Union. What's a white lady doing as the sponsor? And trust me, I get it. However, the number of black teachers at Lee Summit High School is almost 0. So I would like to start this speech by encouraging the board and our Human Resources Department to hire more teachers of color, diverse religions, and or sexual orientations. It is essential that our students see themselves represented in our staff. Next, I would like to give an update on the BSU and what I've seen from them this year. This organization is truly student-led, and I'd like to give an anonymous shout-out to our 3 student leaders. So far this year, we've hosted 2 Black History Month presentations, a student lock-in, and social outings to support local Black-owned businesses. I have heard some people say that an organization like this further divides our community, but I would like to tell you that I think the exact opposite is true. Lee Summit High School currently has around 11% African American population. This means that in a class of 25, a student may have 1 or maybe 2 other students who look like them in the class. At our meetings, Black students are able to connect with other students who have had similar experiences and a shared culture. They can communicate with their fellow Black students without needing to explain nuances and backstories. They understand one another better than they do their non-Black classmates. Our next step, now that our students understand each other and have built trusting relationships with each other, is to invite non-Black students to our meetings so that the 2 groups of students can begin building bridges of understanding, compassion, and respect. Without the BSU, our Black students remain isolated and their voices remain silenced. I cannot wait to see what the Black student unions of Lee Summit are able to accomplish in the next few years. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Adriana Paez and then Merle Bowers.
Hello, I'm Adriana Paez, and I'm a parent. I have two young ones. In Lee Summit, I'm also a social worker and an educator. And I love that I got to follow Bess. More power to you in what you are doing and how you are supporting students in your school, which is kind of what I'm here to talk about. I've been listening and hearing a lot of great things, and I just want to commend the district and all of the teachers and the staff and you all as well that are bringing lots of enriching opportunities to all of our students. I've been a member of the Parent D team, and I also want to just really say thank you to Shelley Saunders for offering up that opportunity to parents in our community to come together and do what Bess was just talking about, coming to a place where we can talk to people who are different than us, but also find opportunities for connection and developing that sense of belonging. So I'm wearing a shirt about democracy, and in my college role, I talk to our students a lot about the importance of civic participation. And I hear a lot of the things that are being constantly emphasized within our district around real-world learning opportunities and the what are they? Tell me. Market value assets. Yeah, so things that we're hoping to help our students prepare for what's next after they leave our district. And I know that we live in an interesting time when it comes to talking about political things, and I always get the wide-eyed look, even from my master's level college students in my classroom when I talk about how social work is political, how it's part of our code of ethics that we should be engaging in our communities, and that we all have a responsibility, even non-social workers. We all have a responsibility to participate in that process, and I really just want to encourage the district, you all, to consider the importance and the value of bringing those conversations and those opportunities to our students more often, so that they get used to participating, and so that we can change the culture around engaging in our democracy and normalizing the fact that it's all of our responsibility to do so.
Our next speaker is Merle Bowers and then Rachel Voss.
Good evening. I'm Merle Bowers, an alumni, longtime substitute, and lifetime patron of the Lee Summit R7 School District. I am a proud 1977 graduate of Lee Summit High School. My 3 children attended, with 2 of them graduating from R7 schools. My 3 children were adopted, with the 2 boys being biracial. I feel these facts allow myself and make way for my attitude toward equity in the Lee Summit School District and give me a unique perspective. Messed up a little there. Before having children, my attitude toward equity was indifferent at best. After having children, my attitude changed. I would view each youth of color as, he reminds me of one of the boys, or she could be a future daughter-in-law. When I began to see the world through their eyes, it was not always good. Among people who didn't know our situation, we would get looks and awkward questions and comments. One particular incident during the election of 2008, one of the boys said an adult at their school asked them who they were voting for in the school's mock election, McCain or Obama. My son replied, McCain all the way. Wonder where he heard that. The adult's reply was, are you sure? I would think you two would vote for Obama. As the boys grew up, I became more interested in U.S. history as it pertains to race. It was through this self-teaching and inquiry that I learned about Emmett Till, the Tulsa Race Massacre, Negro Leagues baseball, and Bass Reeves, the African-American U.S. Marshal who is believed to be the inspiration for the Lone Ranger. This was only part of my journey and growth. After leaving teaching and subbing in the district, I changed careers. I'm now a foster parent advocate, and in this current career and my previous career as a teacher in the Raytown School District, much of my training focused on equity, not only in regard to race and nationality, but also gender issues. And in all that training, I have never felt ashamed or blamed. I don't wish to excuse or blame past practices. My call to action is simple. I'm calling on our communities to stop the partisanship, stop the division, stop the false narratives, and come together for the best of all of our students. I apologize for going over.
Our next speaker is Rachel Voss, and then Kristen Grubbs.
Hello, my name is Rachel Voss. I'm a senior at Lee Summit West High School and a cadet teacher in the Summit Technology Teacher Academy. First, I would like to thank Vice President Marshall, Board Member Sparks, and Board Member Fritchie for visiting my STA class about a month ago. While I was there, Board Member Sparks challenged me to speak at this month's meeting about my concern with the removal of elective courses from school districts across the nation. When I brought it up in class, I was assured that this wouldn't be happening here anytime soon, but as a future family and consumer sciences teacher, I believe that it still needs to be talked about for awareness purposes. The schools that are removing these courses argue that they aren't valuable because they aren't aligned with standardized testing. However, my experience as a student has led me to believe that those elective courses are just as valuable, if not more valuable, than the typical core classes. I'm not saying that core classes are not valuable because they do teach us a general base of knowledge, but elective courses are an amazing tool to help students figure out what they want to do post-secondary or even just help them find a new passion. In our district, we are focusing on real-world learning, and this can easily be implemented in elective courses. Wire, graphic design, architecture, engineering, culinary, and clothing construction classes are all examples of elective courses that I have seen students come out of wanting to learn more about and even pursue as a career option. As mentioned, my personal passion with these elective courses is the family and consumer sciences area. These classes offer so much more than the traditional home ec courses of the past. They teach extremely important life skills that students will use later in life, including budgeting household expenses, child development, interior design, fashion marketing and manufacturing, culinary arts, and good nutrition practices. FACS classes equip students with skills that they will need in order to succeed outside of the classroom setting. I believe that all elective courses are vital because they can help foster and guide students' passions. Thank you for your time and your dedication to the district. As a future teacher, I have appreciated each of you for your support and programs you're putting in place to help me over the next few years. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Kristen Grubbs, and then Jennifer Foley.
In a board meeting, or a board workshop meeting on February 25th, 2021, an esteemed administrator in our district presented LSR7 data through a lens of equity, beginning the presentation with this advice, and I quote, "What we need to do is look at the data and reflect on the data, and let the data tell us the story as opposed to adding our own inferences," end quote. Here's the story the data from our district has been telling me. Since July of 2019, our district has spent, or committed to spending, over $142,000 on Core Collaborative, nearly $400,000 on educational equity consultants, over $580,000 on Panorama. That totals $1.12 million. To clarify, our district sees value in core collaborative consultants and their curriculum, which was mandated to our district staff, a book called Belonging Through a Culture of Dignity, which openly notes its basis being in critical race theory. Our district sees value in educational equity consultants, a consulting group that on their very own website defines racism as, quote, a complex system of beliefs and behaviors that result in the oppression of people of color and benefit the dominant group. It is a system grounded in the presumed superiority of the white race, end quote. They conveniently define white privilege, too. Our district sees value in dispensing panorama surveys to our 3rd through 12th grade students multiple times a year, asking questions like, how much do you matter to others at this school? And overall, how much do you feel like you belong at your school? Neglecting the trigger these questions could be for students who are battling depression and suicidal thoughts. These divisive and ineffective tools were deemed worthy of funding, yet here we are, 3 years since implementation, and their efficacy has yet to be proven. Meanwhile, our staff training is being run by a firm that narrowly defines racism. Staff curriculum is built on CRT, and our children's survey results, merged with their demographic data via student IDs, are stored on a Panorama-maintained server in Virginia. If we added the contracted $1.12 million to the $1.5 million in salaries to our equity leadership and over $200,000 in staffing, travel, and other costs, we'd have $3 million. Going off our district salary chart, I figure since summer of 2019, we could have added 13 to 17 more teachers to our district. We need more qualified teachers and specialists who can meet the needs of students, or meet students where they are and support them as they make progress on their own path to success. Our district has been so distracted with the inferred idea that race is keeping our students from receiving an excellent education. But the data is telling me the blame rests on a mismanaged budget and fouled up priorities. I implore you to stop with this race-centered money pit called equity and do what you committed to doing by hiring qualified teachers and support staff who will indeed prepare each student for success in life.
Our next speaker is Jennifer Foley and then Aaron Gregory.
Good evening. To create a better future, we must learn from the past. Tonight, I would like to share a past proposal with you about which you might not be aware. My hope is that this lesson from our past will provide perspective for the future. In October of 2018, our former superintendent presented data to the community in hopes of securing a contract with a consulting group. The data and values that were presented demonstrated a significant finding not highly publicized. The rate of poverty in the students was highly correlated to their academic performance. Impoverished kids were entering kindergarten well behind their wealthier peers. Once this was identified, a group in our community was inspired to make a difference and created a committee to develop a proposal to help the district improve literacy in elementary students. An educator who tutored dyslexic students with Barton offered to oversee and train future volunteers. More than 30 volunteers were on board with the plan to serve 2 one-hour sessions per week, one-on-one with students, before, during, or after school. The Meadow Lane principal at the time volunteered to pilot the program, and business owners in the community offered to pay for student transportation if needed. The proposed effort would be judged on the success of the progress of the students throughout that year, with hopes that this grassroots effort might grow across the district, a true partnership of home, school, and community. The tutoring program was offered at zero cost to the district. In summer of 19, the community group approached the interim superintendent and 2 assistant superintendents to offer the proposal. The fall, the proposal was rejected with the claim that since this district was purchasing a new reading curriculum, this addition would be too much for teachers to handle. This reasoning conflicted with the willing principal at Meadow Lane and was counter to the fact that teachers would not be involved with this highly specialized tutoring. Instead, the group was told that they should direct their volunteers to fall under the currently held volunteer program, which had neither reading as a focus nor measures in place to test the efficacy of the volunteer work. The sitting Board of Education at the time was advised by the interim superintendent that the district assistant superintendents turned down the community offer, and unfortunately, the school board did not intervene. Our district has weathered some significant changes in the past few years, But when I talked to any of the people who were involved with that proposal, I'm saddened that the district was closed to outside help from retired teachers and business leaders for its struggling readers. 2.5 years have passed. Considered the good that might have been done, especially in the face of the fact that we have yet to fully implement a Tier 3 reading intervention program. The administration has shifted some, the superintendent has changed, and all I ask of you is that if a proposal like this would come up again, where citizens of the community offer to help students to learn to read with a proven program without charge, which would be conducted by professionals, that you strongly consider it. I know you care about the success of our students. Our community also cares about the success of our students. Any opportunity to partner together to benefit the learning of the kids is something that I think should always be explored. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Aaron Gregory, and our final speaker will be Gina Meyer.
Hello, I'm Erin Gregory, and I'm a parent in the LSR7 school district, as you know. I'm here tonight to say thank you to LSR7 for continued communication and transparency, specifically surrounding panorama surveys. As a parent, I appreciate this information, and I encourage others to read those communications, given an uptick in misinformation, namely regarding student data collection and sharing. I want to thank you for providing our students the opportunity to share their feedback and for working to incorporate students' voices and perspectives into decisions you make surrounding learning, planning, and putting students first. We need to amplify all student voices, and we need to empower our teachers with support and relevant information that allows them to best serve their students and manage their classrooms. Specific to Panorama, I can't comprehend the outrage over a survey that gauges how students think and feel about learning experiences in the classroom and about their safety and belonging at school, especially considering two things. One, many parents having so bravely shared their own personal experiences here at this podium of times their children didn't feel a sense of belonging at school, or worse, they faced outright racism, homophobia, or other harm. And two, the mental health issues that have surfaced amid the pandemic, especially during times of social isolation. To wring your hands over panorama surveys is to deprive our teachers and administrators of vital information they deserve to help our students and to prioritize their mental health and sense of belonging, which are certainly factors in academic success. I also want to thank this board for adopting the Board of Education Equity Policy in December. In part, it reads, "The LSR7 school district will promote equitable educational experiences for our students in building the individual and collective efficacy of staff through mandatory continuous equity training while supporting their personal well-being. I encourage this board to continue making progress swiftly and purposefully to implement that deliverable, to provide relevant, rigorous, and most importantly, policy-required continuous equity training for all LSR7 staff and teachers, and even for the community, if even at our own cost. Those who decry equity training as a failure in closing student achievement gaps must understand no one training has ever been scoped to close achievement gaps. To expect as much would be ridiculous. I've seen some excellent examples of our schools fostering belonging for all students, and certainly some opportunities where we've missed the mark. That's why training for all LSR7 teachers and staff is so important and a foundational building block in upholding this board policy. Thank you to this board, our teachers, and our administrators for caring about the whole child in focusing on LSR7's mission statement. Thank you.
Our final speaker of the evening is Gina Meyer.
Hi, I'm Gina Meyer, and I have 3 children that attended Lee Summit Schools K through 12. I'm here to talk about 2 words and show that they don't have to be divisive. We can find common ground. The first is inclusion. We've heard about, sorry about that, guys, muffins with mom and donuts with dads, right? And we know that not all of our kids actually can participate in this because it doesn't actually work for their family structure. But we care about inclusion, so we say all the kids can come with whomever they want, and that's a good thing. But a better thing is if we change the name to maybe Donuts with Grown-Ups. And then we fixed it. And it wasn't even hard. Being inclusive doesn't have to be scary, but it does have to be intentional. And the second word is a little more complicated. It is equity. We've all seen the image of 3 people of different size trying to look over a fence and watch a baseball game, and it doesn't work for all of them. So sometimes you'll see images where they have boxes to try to help, but the obstruction is still there. And what I would like to suggest is that instead of boxes, and considering the different size of the people being the problem, that we don't see the people as a problem, we see the obstruction as the problem, and if it's appropriate, we remove it. But sometimes the obstruction is there for a reason, and in this case, it's the fence, and it's there to protect people. So what do you do when the obstruction is necessary? Well, I don't have an image for my suggestion, but my suggestion is a chain link fence. Because when you remove that solid fence and you replace it with a chain link fence, you've made structural change. And then everybody can see and everybody can still be protected. So, equity is a little more complicated, but it doesn't have to be divisive. And if we look at all situations through lenses of inclusion and equity, we can recognize when obstructions need to be removed and when obstructions need to be changed for the benefit of everyone. And I want to thank the board and let you know I support all of your efforts in equity and inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone who came to speak tonight. We appreciate it. We are going to move on to 5.01. This is our board reports and meetings attended. Board members, if you can, let's do short summaries tonight, okay, of where you have been here over the last month. I think we all would appreciate it. So because you looked at me first, we'll start with board member Allen tonight, and then we'll just kind of
thank you.
around.
I only have 3 pages.
Okay, perfect.
No.
Excellent.
I'll make it quick. February 25th, you and I were at Government Relations. We listened to the proposal, the outline and discussion around the half-cent sales tax for our police and firefighters. March 1st, you and I again. Well, no, not this time. I traveled to Jeff City with the Lee Summit Chamber and 8 other chambers for an advocacy day around chamber interests, primarily, meeting with state reps, senators. Then, the next week, you and I went down, March 7th, with Ms. Campbell and Mr. Sparks, Dr. Buck, a few others, for our advocacy day with the Missouri Missouri State School Board. Goodness gracious. And then Kathy and I enjoyed a meeting with the State Board of Education. Yes, I actually enjoyed it. And they talked about MSIP 6, which is, I think, great, actually. And then back up a little bit, Kim and I had a work day here with Team Lee Summit, talking about phase 2, which is later in the agenda, and then drilled down on and unpack the employee survey, which is ongoing. And good feedback, good participation this year, roughly 1,700 or so employees, over 1,700 employees out of 20 through 2,300. That's awesome.
Okay, very nicely done. All right. Board Member Hedrick.
Yes, I just have 2. The first one was the Board Policy Committee met at the end of February, and we finished up our work in the Board Policy G-Series, which really deals with employee, lots of different types of employee board policies. We finished that work up, and I think we had some recommendations, and we also did discuss policies that are on our agenda this evening as well in terms of JECA and GBCB. So that is pretty much concluded for this school year. And then the other meeting was our Finance Committee meeting yesterday morning, and Board Member Campbell will be giving that report here shortly.
Thank you, Dr. Hedrick. Board Member Campbell?
I attended Finance Committee with Board Member Hedrick, and we'll report on that a little bit later. I had the fun time with Board Member Allen to do a transportation tour. So thank you to Bruce Maples, because just appreciated him taking us around. We learned a great deal about the transportation organization, and it was a great tour and great information. I also attended the MSBA Legislative Days in Jeff City. I want to give a special thank you to Representative Engel for meeting with us, Representative Patterson, and Senator Searpool. I enjoyed our time together and appreciate so much their support of public education and our opportunity to learn a great deal about how to advocate more for public education in our roles and as a part of the MSBA. So that was very exciting. Also, part of that session was in particular around a bipartisan bill on literacy. I know there's been some updates around that, and looks like it's taking a little bit longer to get there, but I appreciated everyone's participation in that bill going through the Senate, including a lot of organizations around the state, and the good listening that was done around literacy and the importance of that for our students. As Board Member Allen mentioned, we did attend a portion of the State of Missouri Board of Education meeting, and that was very informative. It felt very much like our board meetings do. But the great presentation that we got to sit in on was on the MSIP-6, which, as we know, DESE sets the standards for all of us as districts in the state of Missouri. And so while we have our CSIP, which is our strategic plan, we adhere to MSIP-6, and a couple of pieces of that. So equity is called out in M66, that's a change, as well as they've added, so not only are districts ranked and evaluated from a performance standpoint, but also districts will be evaluated on future planning. So that'll now be a part of that M6. So that was very informative to me, and I appreciated that learning. The CAC Legislative Forum, appreciated the CAC for planning that and sharing information. Again, thank you to Representative Engel and Representative Stacy for partnering with that. And I loved that Dr. Buck had invited 3 of the students that are a part of his student council that meet with him on a regular basis, because they were awesome. And I will share one piece of learning from that they shared with us, that they would love to see more information going to parents and to students in the later elementary years, in the middle school years, about all the different clubs and opportunities and activities at the high school level. And so I thought that was great feedback and great ways to engage parents and students in discussing what are those clubs that you want to join? What do you want to look at? What do you want to be when you grow up? All those kinds of conversations, starting those in elementary and middle school, and just that came from student voices. I loved hearing that. So also had great conversations, so thank you to all the groups that attended that day, because that was a great opportunity, I think. So CAC, Business Roundtable participation, student participation, and then we had folks from the district, and so thank you for that opportunity. Also, I got the opportunity to tour Mason Elementary with Board Member Sparks and Representative Sanders. And I think the benefit, part of my learning around the advocacy and around being engaged from a legislative standpoint is the more that we can bring our representatives and our senators from Missouri into our schools so that we can see all the hard work that our teachers and our students and our parents are putting in to education here in our district, I think that's going to help them in Jeff City all the way. So really excited about that tour and Representative Sander taking time with us. I also participated in a meeting for the Pratt team regarding the JECA board policy that we're taking a look at those waivers. We know that it's important. You know, we have the requirement that people live in the district to attend school, but there are some exceptions to that. And talking and thinking about those exceptions, I think, is important. Also, just a note, I also attended Taste of Lee Summit. That was great, and thank you very much. And that raised a lot of money, so that was very exciting to see that action as well. But also I wanted to share just a piece from a personal standpoint. At my work, there was a session called Equity in Health and Technology that was presented for all the employees that work at my company. And one of the things that was brought up in that really resonated with me was the important correlation between good health, good lifelong health, and early education. And I just felt so strongly, you know, as a district and as a community, we all support early education so much in our district, and that just goes hand in hand with health and equity issues from a lifelong standpoint. So I was excited to hear that, and I just felt very strongly that I wanted to share that as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Campbell. Board Member Sparks.
I'll just add what has not already been said. I also attended a meeting with Board Member Fritchie with some concerned parents about some issues, and it was a great constructive conversation where we actually have some goals and some direction that we will be meeting with the rest of our colleagues about. Also, I attended the step show at Lee Summit North. Let me tell you, it was a full house. We had some Bernard Campbell steppers, Lee Summit North steppers. There were steppers, I believe, from, it was either Lawrence or Topeka. It was Raytown School District. It was Truman High School. So it was just a great time, and we had a ball. Also had a meeting with Dr. Miller and Dr. Dale Sims of their particular areas of expertise. And then I'm just going to do this shout out. Ms. Voss that spoke from the Grow Your Own. It was, that is why I'm here. That is why I'm here. And I wanted to kind of get emotional because we get to encounter so much, and we all have our own personal lives, and then we also take all of these other meetings. But to meet the needs of our kids and to see them engage in wanting to see progression in the district that means so much to them is why I'm here, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Sparks. Board Member Fritchie.
Thank you, President Murdoch. Okay, I'll try to keep this quick. I had 5 different meetings. It's been a big meeting month. But Lee Summit Educational Foundation, first of all, some of you may have been hit up by kids to buy Major Saver cards. We made approximately $95,000 this year off of our Major Saver cards, and some of that will be split with the participating schools that sold those cards, so that's great. And we exceeded our budget goal for that. Taste of Lee Summit, thank you to everyone who attended or donated. We had probably more than 500 people in attendance, or 475, not including volunteers, so it was over 500. It was great to be back to Taste of Lee Summit. 13 participating restaurants, so we appreciate our community support on that, and all of the donations our community made. It was just a great event. It was very positive. We will fall a little short of budget for this particular event, but we made up for it in other areas. So, you know, it was good to be back. Scholarships this year, the review teams are reading right now 842 applications this year for our scholarships. Yes, I have 24 in my inbox right now that I need to read. I have not had time to read yet. Peak Classroom Grants. Review teams are reading 75 applications for PEAK grants this year, and LSCF has budgeted to award $60,000 to those grants. Applicants selected will be notified during surprise visits in early May. So yay. Thanks, LSCF. Business roundtable meeting this month. We had a legislative overview presented by our own Dr. Buck on our current legislation in the Missouri House and Senate. Shannon Booth provided our Diploma Plus update to keep our membership informed on that, and members asked great questions. The group had a very good discussion regarding career education, so it was a great business roundtable meeting. Then on to Citizens Advisory Committee meeting, and we had members heard a summary of the important bills that were being discussed and voted on in the Missouri legislature. That was presented by Steve Carell, our legislative consultant and lobbyist for the cooperating school districts of Greater Kansas City. And then our committee members worked in small groups to actually examine bills and practice on communicating with our legislators, because some of us, need some extra help on how to appropriately communicate with our legislators and to appreciate them for what they do for us. Finally, last night we had a great meeting for the Struggling Readers Parent Group led by Dr. Eric Flack. It was a group of interested parents and district employees which spent quite a bit of time generating and discussing the big topics surrounding dyslexia that this committee wants to address and to see addressed in the upcoming meetings. And so there were many great ideas discussed, a lot of ideas generated, and work on them will begin in the next few weeks. And this committee has several meetings on the calendar for this spring. Actually, we're meeting every 2 weeks in that committee. So it's not a do-nothing committee. It is a let's-go-for-it committee. Let's get some things done to help our kids who have dyslexia or are struggling readers. So a lot of great things happening in our district. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Fritchie. Vice President Marshall.
Well, believe it or not, it's already been covered. I'm good.
Well, that was very quick. Nicely done.
Ain't it out?
Okay, just three things from me. Number one is I did want to highlight when we were down in Jeff City for Legislative Day, we did get to visit what was called the Public Student Showcase, which was up in the rotunda of the Capitol. This was groups of students from various schools throughout the state essentially highlighting and showcasing some of their different programs. It was really fantastic. The one that I spent the most time with, I just have to give a shout out to because now I want to admit I forgot the school, but it was a young lady who is growing plants with no soil, which is pretty amazing. And I can't remember what the rocks and stuff were that she was using to do this. It was like some chemicals and stuff like that, but it was, I told her she needs to watch the movie The Martian now. So, and so we also, like Kim mentioned, we had CAC, but I did want to give a quick thank you to Elaine Blummel, Stephen Hill, Steve Carroll for meeting with us, and then Katie for getting it organized. I really do appreciate that. It was a good meeting, and it was actually prior to us getting to go down there on Legislative Day, which was even more helpful. We had our leadership meeting between Vice President Marshall, myself, Dr. Buck, to kind of plan through the next month or so, and we'll continue those here in the coming months. And I do have to, because I promised him I would, and I'm sorry, I'm going to take 5 seconds here. The Kansas City Kings wheelchair basketball team will go to Nationals in Wichita here the first weekend of April with the prep kids, that's 13 and under, which have multiple Lee Summit kids on the team, 29-0 and ranked first in the country. And the varsity program, who are 14 and up, will go in as the number 4 seed in the country, which is pretty amazing for a program that started just 4 years ago. So kudos to them. So that's where I'm going to stop. Board Member Sparks, you wanted to add something?
I'm sorry, I felt rushed. I also took a tour of Hazel Grove Elementary, and as I was coming out of Mrs. Merle's office, Dr. Kenny was there, and she took me on a tour of the entire school. So that was exciting.
That is awesome. Fantastic. So we got through all of that. We are going to move on here in tonight's agenda. So thank you, board members, for reporting out on all of those things. And we are going to move on here to our Finance Committee and Finance Committee report. And it sounds like it will be Board Member Campbell. So we'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. We talked about a number of things at the meeting. One item for approval tonight will be, and I'm sorry that our future teacher Voss left because she would be very interested to know that Bernina's sewing machine purchase. So the current models that are used are very much out of date, and this will replace those machines for the family consumer science classrooms across the district. Also, our purchasing department has worked hard to look at our copy paper for the next year and see the potential savings of buying in bulk and being a part of the co-op around that purchase. So we'll be approving that as well. And again, that the cost savings is great for the district. So really appreciate that, the purchasing department staying up on that. Our nutrition department needs new technology. So laptops, desktops, and point-of-sale computers are needed, and they've worked with IT, and so we'll be moving forward with the funds coming out of the nutrition services, but that will be replace their technology. One question you might have is, why would they need new point-of-sale computers when we know that right now we're still on the free and reduced lunch waiver? And the reason for that is, even with the waivers, we have to have the point-of-sale technology in place. So important to replace that as well. Also, with our East Trails Middle School, one item that is moving forward is around the phone installation. And one thing Dr. Whaley shared with us is they've actually done quite a bit of research, and they'll be implementing new phone technology in East Trails that then they'll work in the coming years to take out across the rest of the district. So they made sure that this will work with the existing phone systems in other schools, and we'll move forward with that implementation and installation. Also, looking at real estate purchases, it's recommended that we include the law firm of Chinnery, Evans, and Nail as one of the law firms that we use within the district, and target especially those real estate contracts and purchases around that. We reviewed the contracts for $15,000 and less, and there were no questions around that. We also looked at the transportation program evaluation, and I know that's available for all board members, and talked a little bit about the committee that's being put together that will kind of be the preparation committee ahead of getting ready for an RFP process to look at school bus purchases and fuel and all of those kinds of things. And so we'll be getting updates around that committee work. But I, again, really encourage all of our board members to get engaged around, if we're starting a committee, knowing who's a part of the committee, learning what the committee's looking at so that it's a partnership with the committee, and that as we're working towards any recommendations they would make, that we're part of that understanding and that we have questions asked and answered way ahead of when we might be approving a recommendation. So just encourage everyone around that. A couple of facilities items around the Lee Summit High School. So an air chiller that was not scheduled for replacement needs to be replaced. So fortunately, within our capital budgets, we have the money to cover that, and so we'll be moving forward. And I really appreciated Kyle Gorell sharing some information around that, because he's also having the other air chillers that are at Lee Summit High School evaluated so that we can make sure that they're not going to have the same problem, or if they are, that we're seeing it very early that this air chiller had, because air chillers are quite expensive. So we'll be approving that also. For Richardson and Summit Lakes, the walk-in freezers are going to be replaced, again, as part of the capital budget. And then continue to work on the bond report and look at those bond expenses. So we have some updates. We know that because the bond funds have gone over multiple years, that getting that report in sync was a little bit challenging. So we've got good data and good information that we'll be able to review as each board member, and then they're still continuing to tweak on some of the encumbrances. So we'll look for that incoming, hopefully in next month, for resolution. So any questions on those items? Okay. I will share one other item that we discussed, and it was a little bit later in some of the financial reports, but I did just want to touch on with nutrition services. We talked a lot about the waivers that will not be in place next year. And just like she has always done, Lori Dinella did a great job of letting us know the planning that she is going through right now to be ready for when we don't have those waivers anymore, to ensure that we stay positive on our nutrition services funds and that we keep that money in the positive state. So I really appreciated her just jumping right in and walking through the great work she's doing and the planning that she's doing to help us stay ahead of the game. So just wanted to give her a shout out of thanks for that. So as a next item, I move to approve the transfer of $2,938,400.98 from the general fund to the special revenue fund.
Second.
Motion and a second for the transfer of funds. Is there any discussion on this? All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Board Member Campbell?
I move to approve the treasurer's report and the payment of the bills.
Second.
Motion and a second to Dr. Hedrick on 6.03.
Thank you, Dr. Hedrick.
Any discussion on 6.03? All those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Board Member Campbell. We are going to move on to our item 7. This is our consent agenda. This is just a quick reminder to anybody who might be watching online too. The consent agenda are all items that we have as board members reviewed and essentially agree to pass as. What? Who does? So does anybody need to pull an item from item 7?
Okay. I respectfully request that we pull 7.03 from item 7 so that we may ask a few questions and discuss it.
Okay. Ms. Ismer, do you have that? And we'll put it down in an item for decision, please. Board Member Sparks? Okay, we will also
7.08. My mic wasn't on.
Okay, so we will pull 7.08 and add it to an item for decision. So board members, the consent agenda now is item 7.01, essentially through 7.12, okay, because that will be what the numbers will correspond to. So I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page with that. Could we have a motion on the floor for our consent agenda then, please?
I move to approve the consented agenda items as presented in item 7.01 through 7.12.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hedrick. Thank you, Board Member Campbell and Board Member Marshall. We're not going to do that. So all those in favor here of the consent agenda, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. We're going to move on to now our items for decision. So now we will have 6 coming up here. So item 8.01 is the compensation package for 2022-23, and we're going to turn it over to Mr. Holder to present those findings from Team Lee Summit.
Good evening. It is my pleasure to be here this evening to present the recommendation for the 2022-23 school year from Team Lee Summit for our salary and compensation package. And on the board agenda item, we really highlighted the features of this recommendation as well as a one-page summary sheet. And so I will spend just a couple minutes highlighting really the 3 main areas, and then we'll take questions if there are any. Before I get started with the 3 main items, I would just like to highlight the process with Team Lee Summit. This is my first year here in Lee Summit School District, and when I came, I was told, hey, you're part of Team Lee Summit, and I didn't know what that was at the time, but I have come to find that it is an extremely unique feature, and I think a really tremendous feature of the Lee Summit R7 School District. It is a group of representatives of all employee groups from our school district, and we meet approximately 5 times a year and discuss a lot of different items, but one of the key items is our salary recommendations. And so we go through a process throughout the year, and so we've arrived at this point tonight. So the first recommendation is that all of our employees would receive a step advancement on our 4 salary schedules. We have a support schedule, professional schedule, a teacher schedule, and our administration schedule. The second item that has been mentioned earlier tonight is the implementation of Phase 2. For those that are new to the process, last year, and actually I believe in the spring of 2020, the board charged Team Lee Summit to look at our salary schedules And part of that, what came out of that process was a recommendation for 2 phases of improvements. Phase 1 was implemented this year, and phase 2 was left to be implemented in a future fiscal year. And so I'm pleased to report tonight that our recommendation is to bring phase 2 to the table for all eligible employees, and that is across all 4 of our ranges that would impact those eligible employees for salary enhancements. And then the third item is, in addition to step movement on our support salary schedule, we would have a slight base increase to that schedule, which would bring us into alignment with the Missouri minimum wage that will go into effect in January of 2023. And so that would ensure that all of our employees are paid at least at the $12 an hour range, and also provide, in addition to the step increase, a increase to the support hourly rate along the entire range of the schedule. And the last item that I would mention in the additional recommendations is that Team Lee's Summit strongly recommends that the board continue to fund the employee cost for all of our health, dental, long-term disability, basic life, and employee assistance programs in the 22-23 budget. And I would just highlight there that of all those that I mentioned, the health insurance is the only item that could possibly increase, because the others are set with a 3-year rate guarantee, and we'll be in year 2 in the 22-23 school year. So at this time, I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Okay, so before we do questions, I would appreciate if we'd get a motion on the floor, if that's all right with board members, and then we can have any discussion and questions. So let's take a motion here on 8.01.
I move that the board approves the proposed compensation package for the 2022-23 school year.
Second.
Okay, appreciate the motion and the second. Board Member Sparks? Board Member Sparks, is your mic on?
It is not.
There we go.
My comment is I appreciate that we are doing phase 2 of making some of our wrongs right. I would appreciate if we seriously understand that our support staff and our teachers, they're the bedrock of this district. And I think it's important that they remain the focus when it comes to compensating them for the work that they do. And so appreciate what has been done, but I want to make sure that that is continued to happen so that we can keep good staff and good teachers here in this district. My question is, with phase 2, there's no phase 3, so phase 2 should pretty much take care of our inconsistent between pay scales, correct?
Yes, it will align, in particular on the teacher schedule, years of service with their step placement.
Okay, and so next year, or at the next increase, then if we decided to give an increase, which I'm obviously a proponent of that, then it would be just across the board. There would not be any other type of situations to where we're bringing people to their appropriate step, because we would have done that with phase 1 and 2, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Board Member Campbell?
A couple of questions. And Nathan, I really appreciated you sharing that, and just asking to confirm, the school districts are not required to pay minimum wage, but because it's important to us, we want to pay at minimum. We want to make sure that we're in alignment around that minimum wage, right?
That is correct, yeah. All public school districts in the state are not required to follow the minimum wage, but that is a choice that we have made, yes.
Great, thank you. And then the other item that we talked about, because we know that a lot of these changes don't just affect this year, but will have those ripple effects in the future years, that you've been great enough to provide us with some of those future budget looks, and you'll be mapping all of these things that we're voting on tonight into those future looks so that we've got those dollars projected out. And we know they're projections, but you're doing a great job of keeping us informed of that future impact so that we're looking at overall budget given these changes, right?
Yes, definitely. We'll continue to do that, and I appreciate that.
Great. Do you think we'll have those updates before next month's board meeting?
There was, I thought did you get the update?
Maybe I didn't get the update. Yeah. Oh, great. Okay. Thanks very much.
Yes, you do
so
have
we've got it now. Thank you.
Update.
Awesome.
And then that will be, as you mentioned, continually refined as we get better information.
Sure. Thank you for doing that, and thank you for doing it so quickly. Great.
Board Member Allen.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Holder, I've told you 1,000 times, I think you do great work. I appreciate all that you contribute to Team Lee Summit. Kim and I are on that. I know I should say board member, Fritchie, right? Kim and I are on that team, Lee Summit. Weigh in on some commentary and don't try to set direction and just try to listen as much as any. It was some good work by Team Lee Summit over the past few years, and it wasn't easy work, and certainly I didn't do the heavy lifting. It was really done by the employees that are on that committee and on that group, and weighed in quite a bit. I mean, they weighed into a lot of it, and some tremendous homework done by Human Resources. Dr. Carlson was on the committee and his team. So phase 1 was put in place. Phase 2 is being considered. We have received some feedback. I've received some direct phone calls. You and I have talked a little bit about what's next. The end of the scale may not be quite as robust, I guess, and maybe as we are for the folks. Thank you for that. In phase 2. So we'll have that ongoing conversation. The beauty is, I think you want to continue to have that type of conversation. Dr. Buck wants to have that type of conversation, and our leadership team. So it doesn't go unnoticed. I'm sort of addressing 2 folks that called me directly, but I know that if 2 folks called, there are another, however many out there. I do want to lean in on something, though, that was said earlier, and I think I've certainly stumbled on words up here and made comments and certainly paid the price when I haven't thought them through. So don't take this the wrong way, Mr. Sparks, because I do want to have some reference to the past, right? And I wasn't up here on the board. None of us were in 11, roughly, when salaries were frozen. Everybody was stuck with what they had at the time, following a 39% reduction in the S&P 500 and the major housing crisis of 08. So that being said, I don't believe we're making, we're not righting our wrongs for the history. I mean, so I don't mean to be insulting in that comment. I'm just, it's not necessarily making wrong a right. We're just able to reflect on what was done, the tough decisions that were made across the board, and trying to make up for some hard decisions that had to be made 10 years ago. So I don't believe that anybody did anything wrong at that time, but had to squeeze some blood out of a turnip, so to speak. And we're fortunate enough that we're flush enough, and a district that concentrates enough to get where we are. So sorry for all the word salad there, but I do appreciate the fact of Team Lee Summit over the past 3 years, 4 years or so, and the board really drilling down, you drilling down, Judy Hedrick putting in tons of work. It's really gone, without notice, but certainly compliment your work on getting these numbers that are real and making some things good and right, certainly, but not in lieu of what was wrong, just what had to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Allen. Board Member Fritchie.
Yes, I'll try to keep it quick. Yes, I just wanted to say, in addition to, this is our salary proposal part of Team Lee Summit, But that group was excellent. They worked very hard. They dug in, rolled up their sleeves, and they worked hard. And I don't think Dr. Del Sim got credit, too, for her work on that. So thank you. But I just wanted to say, as a follow-up to this, though, there were thousands of comments on that survey, too, that we spent a lot of quality time in Team Lee Summit looking at the work-life issue comments. Nathan and I were on that same small group team together, and we actually developed some basic themes and some action steps or some questions that then moved on to the superintendent's leadership group. And they will be looking at those, and they will be sending those out to the appropriate administrators for action or follow-up communication that will come out next fall. So I just wanted people who are aware of our employees to understand that this salary proposal tonight, this is great. We all should be happy about it. But the second step of that is that there will be action taken on some of those concerns and comments that our employees have made, because I want them to feel like you are listened to. Very much so this year. They really dug into those comments. So we will see what comes out of that in September.
Appreciate that. Board Member Sparks?
I appreciate the other comments that were said. I do stand by my words choice in that particular matter, and we can talk about it privately if you want. But then also, I do have a follow-up question. That question is how is the committee, how are those individuals selected?
That's a good question, and I would have to lean on someone else to answer that. Dr. Del Sim?
I'm going to jump in and say that there's actually in the charter for Team Lee Summit the process for elections, but that's like a revolving process. All of the support staff, I think there's different groups that are elected by those individuals who are in that group, like on a 3-year rotating basis, and then the teacher groups, two teacher organizations that are represented, they do their own elections within their group for their Team Lee Summit representative.
So by departments?
Excuse me?
By departments?
It's by like position, like the paraprofessionals. They have a representative on there, so all of the paraprofessionals would vote on who they would elect to be their Team Lee Summit representative, and
Okay.
bus drivers and custodians and just every employee group.
It's very bottom-up driven. Yeah.
That is great information. I just saw the picture and saw that there was not much diversity on that group, and so that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Mr. Holder, thank you for putting together the information, by the way, not only for this, but I know I had asked you for the past data of percentage that we spend on salaries. And I think there's 2 points that are important here for our patrons to understand in this particular recommendation. One is we have all the salary schedules, but we also have all of the clubs, ranges and stuff like that are there. So if sponsors want to be able to look at that to see for next year, you have that information will be available. The second thing is that, we've talked about it for a little bit, that we spend anywhere between about 83.5% to 84.5% of our entire budget goes to salaries and benefits, and that's been very consistent over the last 10 years. And I should have mentioned, by the way, that I was asking the question because I wanted to show a few people that it has stayed very, very consistent in terms of what the total budget is that we spend on salaries and benefits. That being said, I'm going to beat this drum till it forever and ever that our benefits are fantastic within this district, but they certainly are not getting cheaper. And the recommendation I obviously support, but going forward, it's going to continue to get harder and harder and harder to maintain increases in salaries plus taking control of benefits. And so that's where I'm just going to end. Otherwise, I'm going to get angry about it. Not at you, obviously, at the insurance industry. So, okay. That's actually, that's even better. Yeah, there you go. Any other comments or questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second that's on the floor. Ms. Ismark, we have a roll call vote on this one. And thank you, Mr. Holder. Appreciate it.
Yes, and as we do that, I'd like to ask the board to hit F5 because that will refresh.
Done it, and I have the order for us. We're good to go. Yep.
Awesome, thanks. Board Member Allen?
Aye.
Board Member Campbell? Board Member Fritchie? Board Member Hedrick? Vice President Marshall?
Aye.
Board Member Sparks?
Aye.
President Murdoch?
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. We are moving on to 8.02, item for decision. This is renewing our administrative staff for the 2022-23 school year. So I take a motion on that item, please.
I move the board approve to renew the administrative staff as submitted for the 2022-2023 school year.
We have a motion and a second on the floor for renewing administrative staff for the upcoming school year. Is there any discussion on this particular item? Ms. Ismark, we have a roll call vote on this item, please.
Can I confirm that it was Board Member Allen that seconded?
Yes, it was.
Board Member Campbell? Board Member Fritchie? Board Member Hedrick? Vice President Marshall?
Aye.
Board Member Sparks?
Aye.
Board Member Allen?
Aye.
President Murdoch?
Aye. That motion carries unanimously. 8.03 is renewing our probationary teachers for the 2022-2023 school year. We'll take a motion on that item, please.
I move that the board renew the probationary teachers as submitted for the 2022-23 school year.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. You have a choice this time, Ms. Ismark. So there you go. There you go. Any discussion on 8.03? We have a roll call vote on this item, please.
Board Member Fritchie? Board Member Hedrick?
Aye.
Vice President Marshall?
Aye.
Board Member Sparks?
Aye.
Board Member Allen?
Aye.
Board Member Campbell? President Murdoch?
Aye. That motion carries unanimously. 8.04 is our new personnel requests for the upcoming 2022-2023 school year. We'll take a motion on that item.
I move that the board approve the non-allocated human resources requests as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for 8.04. Is there any discussion on this item? Sorry, was there anything that you wanted to add? We can ask a question, just ask a question, right? I mean, I'm sorry, I should have, okay, all right. Ms. Ismark, we have a roll call vote on 8.04, please.
Board Member Hedrick?
Aye.
Vice President Marshall?
Aye.
Board Member Sparks?
Aye.
Board Member Allen?
Aye.
Board Member Campbell? Board Member Fritchie?
Aye.
President Murdoch?
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. 8.05 is the item from the consent agenda that is now an item for decision. That's the Chinnery, Evans, and Nail
Policy.
Well, that's not when I had hit it. I'm just saying how it showed up. He can at least attest that when I hit it, it's opposite. So I blame Dr. Buck. So there we go. So okay, we'll go with since most of you have the policies, but he can at least attest that it is sitting here. Okay, so we'll go 8.05. We'll do the board policies AC, GB, CB, and JECA. So we'll take a motion on that item, then we can have any discussion and questions.
Okay, I'll move that the board approve the first and final reading for board policies AC, GB, CB, and JECA as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for 8.05. This is the time for discussion and questions. Board Member Fritchie.
Yes, thank you for moving this to items for decision. I've had some questions from some folks in our community, and I just thought we needed to answer those in front of everyone tonight. This is referring to policy JECA, board policy JECA. In our background information, we discussed this at a work session on March the 3rd. The session was live streamed and recorded on the YouTube channel. Some folks watched that and had some questions about that. It's a revision to our policy to provide full-time employees who live outside the district boundaries to enroll their students tuition free. And so if we could get someone, Dr. Buck, maybe perhaps this is you. First question, I have like 3 questions, okay? Okay, Dr. Potts will answer. Okay, thank you, Dr. Potts. My first question was, what's the reason for this proposal or this change in the policy?
Buck.
So, multiple reasons. It's a recruitment retention piece. So we have some employees who may not be able to afford to live in our community, but they can work here. So we want to help educate their students if they choose to bring them along with them. It's a work-life situation where they're going to be working in school. Sometimes the kid can go there. The vast majority of public school districts in Missouri, according to Missouri School Board Association, already does this. In fact, where I came from before, I can't think of a single district in the region who did not do it. So, and we used to do it 20 years ago or so, and we had stopped when we were growing really fast, like 600 kids a year, and we're not in that situation right now. And with our bond issue, and thank you to the community for the bond issue, we do have the space for it as well.
And I was actually a recipient of that policy back when I was in high school. In my freshman and sophomore year, I did not live in Lee Summit School District, so my mom taught here, so I got to come here. But please, Dr. Buck or Dr. Potts, explain the funding for these additional students. Where does the funding come from to educate them?
See, I thought Dr. Potts was going to get questions. So the funding would be average daily attendance is what generates state funding, and so state funding would follow the student.
Okay, so state funding does follow the student, so we would get funded for those students who are in attendance. Okay, and then the last question is, how is the school determined for that staff member's student? In other words, does the staff member get to just select what school that their student would go to, or how do we determine that?
No, they don't get to select what school their student goes to. We put a chart into there's an application that the employee would fill out, and their child would attend the school in the attendance area of their work report location.
Okay.
So if an employee reports to Lee Summit North, but they have an elementary age student, then it would be as if their address is at Lee Summit North, and then they would go to that feeder system. So we created a feeder system for like nutrition services, individuals who work at SLC, whatever schools they work on, what their feeder pattern is depending upon the grade level. So it would be as if their residence is at their work location, and that would determine their attendance area.
Okay, and one final question, sorry, I added one, but this was also asked by the patron. If the school that they want to attend is at capacity, then what happens at that point?
Then we would work, my understanding is the way we discussed this, we would work on finding an alternative location for the individual if there wasn't space at the request or at the school.
Okay, or if it's like, it looks like it's growing so rapidly that they're going to be full.
Same thing goes for special programming too. There are sometimes limited slots or limited space for some special programming. If a student needed that special programming and there wasn't space, we would work to try to find a placement for that student.
Thank you very much. I appreciate those answers.
Board Member Campbell.
One quick question I remember that came up as a part of the work session. You know, you mentioned recruitment and retainment, and I know that we asked, do our teachers and our staff really see this as a great opportunity? Can you share a little bit about that?
Yes, I have a teacher advisory committee and an administrative roundtable, and it was a resounding yes, please out of both groups. In fact, the administrators are saying not only is it yes, please, but it's a huge recruiting and retention piece for them as well.
Thank you. And I just have one more item, if I could. I do want to really thank the board, thank Joe Hatley. There was a lot of work around AC and GBCB, and I really appreciate, you know, we saw as a board some gaps there, and we worked closely together to close those gaps up and shore those up. So I would encourage every staff member to review AC, review GBCB, because those are new and updated, and make sure that you have awareness on that. And I just want to, again, thank the board, my fellow board members, and thank Joe for the hard work around that. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Campbell. Board Member Allen.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Along those same lines, I'd like to encourage some good, strong conversation out of this building to the buildings in our district and to personnel across the board, because we're raising the bar, and I think we need to understand what that means. We also need to understand that I think we need to raise the bar across the board, all 18,000 plus students as well. So I think one will lead to the next and the next and the next. So I agree with Ms. Campbell. We put a lot of work and effort into this, and I've faced the same issues in the private community, and we're held to this standard, so I think it's only appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Allen. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Ms. Ismer, can we have we've done a motion in a second, right? Yep, there we go. So roll call vote on this one, please.
Vice President Marshall?
Aye.
Board Member Sparks? Board Member Allen?
Aye.
Board Member Campbell? Board Member Fritchie?
Aye.
Board Member Hedrick? President Murdoch?
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. 8.06 is the Chinnery, Evans, and Nail contract. So if we could get a motion, and then we will have discussion or questions, or both.
I move the Board of Education approve the professional service agreement with Chinnery, Evans, and Nail, PC.
Second.
Motion and a second for item 8.06. Any questions or discussion on this item? Board Member Sparks?
Dr. Miller, thank you for coming up here. I have a question for you. Can you, privately, we kind of talked about this a little bit. Can you, I know that this is a law firm that we have had a previous relationship with, and I know it's also kind of like a hometown type of law firm. Can you tell me what the RFP process was, if there was one performed? And then also, is there a need for this particular law firm currently?
Thank you. There was an RFP process, and we did put out a bid through Ion Wave, and we discussed this. They did not meet the deadline for that. This particular firm really it's very local. It's very specialized in purchasing land and acquisition, and there's not a need for it right now. It would just be in the event that there is a need that we would add them.
Were there any other law firms that actually did participate in the RFP process?
Well, that's where we got our general counsel from. Yeah,
Okay.
our slate of general counsel.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions? Ms. Ismer, can we have a roll call vote on 8.06, please?
Board Member Sparks? Board Member Allen?
Aye.
Board Member Campbell? Board Member Fritchie?
Aye.
Board Member Hedrick? Vice President Marshall?
Aye.
President Murdoch?
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all for all of those. We are going to move on to item 9. That's 9.01. This is our school counseling program evaluation, and I believe we have Dr. Hill with us this evening to give that presentation.
We'll try that again. Good evening. Thank you, board members. Thank you, Dr. Buck. And I want to thank my fellow esteemed colleagues who have been encouraging me to be swift but concise at the same time. So I appreciate the opportunity to present our school counseling evaluation program. I could not be in this position by myself. I want to thank my fellow IoT members and our school counselors and ed therapists. We have one school counselor here in the room with us tonight. That's Mr. Casey Blakemore, counselor at Richardson Elementary. And I know there are counselors at home that are watching as well. So I appreciate all of them and the things that they do. I'm truly in awe each year to see the amazing things that our school counselors do, excuse me, in forming connections for our kids. From small groups, individual conferences with students, curriculum lessons, crisis situations, and unfortunately we have had some crisis situations. They genuinely show the care and concern for students and staff all across the district. We are lucky to be in the state of Missouri because the state of Missouri is looked to in the school counseling world as the premier state. And so the national model is reflected in our state model. So we are very, very fortunate from that. Our program design or our program overview, we have, and this is primarily last school year, we had 47 school counselors across the district serving and supporting our students. We have 7 members on our steering leadership and lead department that take feedback from department members, bring it to our group. We discuss it each month, think of ways that we can improve our program, but also provide some professional development. Our school counseling, we have a strategic plan, our own strategic plan, that is aligned with the district's strategic plan, as well as the Missouri Comprehensive School Counseling Program. And then, of course, the Student Support Department budget supports many of the resources that our school counselors work with. I would be remiss if I didn't remind all of us, this is what our department meetings would look like sometimes last year. And even though that personal touch, and you all know this, nothing beats that face-to-face collaboration, but it was amazing to see all of our counselors jump on the Google Meets. Kudos to our technology department for upgrading Google Meets so that we could have breakout sessions and do some multiple things within the department. So again, school counseling department connects with many of our departments across the district. Annual evaluation, our annual goals and action steps. As I mentioned before, it is aligned to the Missouri School Counseling Program. It's also aligned to the national standards. So we have 5 objectives that we constantly are working towards and working on. As you can see, they're program foundation, school counseling curriculum, individual student planning, responsive services, and system support. As I mentioned, they are aligned to national and state standards. We follow that structure, which is research and evidence-based. We follow the needs of our school buildings and the district. So we are constantly gathering data and information to support the needs of our students. We also work under a multi-tiered system of support in school counseling. And at the bottom, and I apologize for the very small type on here, but there are 3 kind of components or categories that the school counselors focus on. They support all students with skill building in each of these areas, whether it be social and emotional development. Those are very important skills that we need, academic development, and college and career development. But they cannot do those 3 things alone, and so they partner every day with teachers, administrators, just as I partner with my colleagues, Shannon Booth in the career and technical world. I'm constantly working with our instructional operations team. How can we better support our students from the counseling lens? And we use data to, of course, collaborate and problem solve all along the way. Again, excuse me, those 4 components, the school counseling curriculum, that's universal. All students receive school counseling curriculum. Individual career and academic planning, again, it is universal. All students have an individual career plan. Responsive services, this is where we get into that next level of the multi-tiered system of support, of additional supports or interventions for some students. And you can see some of the examples there, as well as system support. Those are those indirect student services that are still benefiting students, but may look like department meetings or building and district teams and program management. Some other features of data. In the past 3 years, we have been working with counselors to do general check-in data. They love it. I say that tongue-in-cheek. But they keep track of all of the sessions and meetings that they have with students, just general overview, so that they have data that they can look at in real time to see how they are using their time with students, whether it be in counseling lessons and presentations, individual meetings or sessions. And then you can see, this is just one snapshot, and we had 90% of school counselors reporting this data. I will share with you that these numbers are low, and they are low for last year for 2 reasons. The different learning modalities that we had, obviously, and then the limited access to students. When they're not in our buildings and not in our classrooms, it's difficult to to support. But our counselors did some amazing things with dividing up for the R7 online elementary and meeting virtually with students in the online world, as well as students in person. So on a normal year, these numbers would be much, much higher. The next portion of data is the internal improvement review. So our department, as I mentioned before, models after the state model. And there's a state-created survey in which our school counselors assess their program. And then they create SMART goals, and they are trying to meet those goals based upon the 4 components. As you can see here, there's an overview, and that is more of the general foundation. And then there's the curriculum, individual planning, responsive service, and system support. You're seeing a pattern over and over and over of the same components, so they are constantly evaluating where they are with their program in school counseling. And so you can see 87% of their programmatic components are in place. It doesn't mean that they're doing only 87% of the work. It's 87% of the program is actually in place. The next piece of data for you is a time task. Once a month, again, our counselors love it, tongue-in-cheek. They have a 15-minute random sampling over the course of their day in which they identify what are they doing at that moment and which category or component is it serving and supporting. And because we're doing a random sampling, this chart shows where the bulk of time was spent at the elementary, middle, and high school, and then the DESE suggested percentages. I know a question you might have is if our percentages are not in there, is this good or bad for our staff or for our teachers or for our students? We're always striving to be better, and we're always trying to improve the direct service to our students. But there are times that we need to be on some committees that benefit students. So that's going to represent our system support and that indirect time. So again, always trying to improve direct services to our students. So let's get to some reflections, strengths, and celebrations. These are screenshots, and again, collaboration with Katie Bergen and her team. We were able to create, with their help, some SEL videos and strategies for students. And this was shared with different buildings. So you can see on this page, there are some counselors from our elementary and middle, and then also some middle school as well as an ed therapist that provided some different strategies to help students as they were coming back to school and looking at that social and emotional development. Our counselors and ed therapists also did a strategies for staff and provided an SEL video for staff, reminding them to take good care as well. Last year, we focused a lot on the social and emotional development of our students and our staff, and an amazing feature that we have on our district-wide website is the virtual calm space. Anyone can access this virtual calm space. If you haven't already, there are different videos. If you're needing some calm music, or if you're needing we're landlocked, and I love the beach. So if you want to see a beach scene to help you relax, that's an example of something that you can do. But also our school counselors and ed therapists, they developed virtual counseling offices. And so when students were at home or away from school, they could utilize the virtual offices. Our school counselors taught them how to get to them and taught them some of the strategies and opportunities that were embedded within there. So there's games that you can play virtually together. There's drawings. Again, all on the emphasis of how to better take care of ourselves. And one of the most exciting celebrations for us last year was Christy Mann counselor at Mason Elementary School, received the National Recognition Award called RAMP. And RAMP stands for Recognized ASCA, which is the National School Counseling Association model program. And to my knowledge, this is the first nationally recognized school counseling program in Lee Summit R7. And I have challenged all of our counselors. They too could do the same thing that Christy Mann has done, because each one of their programs is top-notch, just like hers. And she would say the same thing. And you know, I admire Christy so much because she was able to gather all the paperwork and do everything in the midst of COVID when we were at home and working on all of this. So it was truly amazing. And this was at the National Conference where she received the award with her principal, Beth Ratty, and then of course one of our Dr. Sherry Sevier, who's on the MISCA, Missouri School Counseling Association board. So a great opportunity, and her program aligns 100% with the national model. Some other celebrations and strengths. I hope you're seeing a kind of a theme here, is we are doing some amazing things. So this slide and the next slide just shows a small portion of the programs impacting students in our buildings. And these are some of the programs in the elementary school that our counselors are key collaborators and coordinators of. And on this page, sorry for a lot of words all on one page, but at our secondary levels, our middle school and high school counselors are doing just the same. We did have a video, but unfortunately, yeah, it won't load, so Dr. Whaley's going to be working on that, and now it won't move me. Oh. So this, if we get it to play, maybe not. It's a very short video I can forward to you all of a student's perspective. Okay, that's fine. I appreciate you trying. Thank you. I'll forward the video, or you actually have the video, the presentation. Please take a gander. It's a great, quick video that talks about what the kids feel about their school counselor, and I really liked our elementary student and her perspective as well. So all of those programs that I put together, I put it in a Wordle to kind of show you, and it's interesting, the words that stand out. Student-centered is one of the big words, and coordinator. They do a ton to coordinate the well-being and career and individual planning for our kids. So findings and reflections. It's always good to reflect as teachers, that we wouldn't be good teachers if we didn't reflect. And we're always looking to grow and looking for opportunities to improve. So we want to continue to implement our school counseling strategic plan. We've worked very, very hard this past week. We had a department meeting in which we did a gallery walk, in which department members offered ideas and different ways that we can continue to improve on those tasks and strategies. We want to continue collecting data and evaluate the effectiveness of our programs. We want to align the work of school counselors with the MTSS work in implementing the school program. And we are working on a district advisory committee to assist in providing feedback on the overall comprehensive school counseling program. Some upcoming questions, of course: how can we use data to show stakeholders the impact we have on students? So, you know, we are data rich, and so we need to make sure that we are using the right data to help make informed decisions. And how can barriers be removed to assist counselors with the full implementation of the school counseling program? And then, of course, the upcoming goals and action steps for next year that we are looking towards. All school counselors will continue collecting data to reflect on their programmatic needs. All school counselors will collect outcome data to understand the impact of their interventions on achievement, discipline, or attendance. And school counselors will increase collaboration with educational therapists and other work groups to best support students and staff across the district. And I would just like to say thank you to the LSR7 School Board, Board of Education. Thank you for all you do. Thanks for your support. Thank you, Dr. Buck, and Shelley Sanders, and all of my colleagues out here. I'll take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Dr. Hill, very much. It does look like you're going to have a few questions and or comments directed towards you. So we'll start with Board Member Fritchie.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hill. Regarding counselors' time, the time stamp that you were talking about, the curriculum percentages, to me, I've watched these over the years, and they always seem to be a little low. Can you tell me to what we attribute those numbers?
So to me, I think it's a couple of things, and thank you for the question. I think some of it is getting time to get into the classrooms. As you can see, responsive services is fairly high. So when you have students that have individual needs or may be in crisis situations, they're making that a priority. Not that curriculum is not an important part, but we need to respond to students in need. And I think another potential barrier is, especially at our middle school and high school, is the school schedule. You know, as a teacher, some of us can relate to, well, that's my time as a teacher. And it's being willing to give up that time to have some of those proactive conversations that curriculum and lessons allow the school counselors to have.
Sometimes when I look at the state's recommended percentages of time, I think to myself, is that really realistic? You know, I haven't been in schools and watched our counselors really work, and I just don't. So I mean, I kind of knew what was going on there, but I just find it interesting to compare those numbers.
Sure.
Finally, we can't let you go before saying thank you for your service to the counseling department and to our school district. I see that tonight we accepted the retirement of Roxanne Hill, and you will be very much missed. Thank you for the great work.
Thank you.
And congratulations to you. And sometime I'm going to talk to you about what your next chapter look like. But
thank you.
Congrats.
Board Member Sparks.
Truly appreciate the work that you do. I have a question. At one of the schools that we were just at, and I believe that was Mason, that had an individual class catered just to the counselor. And with the needs that a lot of our schools do really, they need the counselors. And they're meeting a lot of needs of our students. My suggestion, or I guess my question is, what do we need to do to really kind of have that same concept that's at Mason, which also would make an impact of the curriculum piece with a lot of our other buildings?
That's a great question. Thank you. So I know, of course, next year with sixth grade moving to the middle school, that will potentially free up some spaces. And I do know that some building principals have had conversations with counselors that they are getting a new space, a classroom. And so you're exactly right. Instead of the counselor traveling to the teacher's classroom, then the students travel to the counselor's classroom. I think there's also benefit in leaving that up to the counselor to decide too, because that big space may feel really big to an elementary student that needs a more comfortable, smaller space too. So I think sixth grade moving to the middle school will help with that as well. And I know that our building principals are really creative along with the school counselors.
Thank you for your leadership. Thank you to all the counselors for all your work and meeting the needs of our students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Board Member Sparks. Board Member Hedrick.
I just have a couple questions. One of them really is a follow-up or maybe an addition to Board Member Fritchie's question about this particular chart. And I guess I sit here thinking about, you know, have we talked internally with our counselors about these various areas and where they feel they ought to be spending their time, because I guess I feel like from, watching these reports over the years, their role has really changed. And I think it's really been, significantly more impacted, just like a lot of people are in public education since COVID. But, and maybe DESI's numbers or percentages are really out of whack, and we should have our own. If that doesn't violate our, our MSIP or whatever. So I guess that was just a comment. And the other thing is, and I've looked, and if it's in here and I've missed it, I would also want to know where we are in terms of the number of counselors we have and the DESI standards. And I didn't see that anywhere, and if it's in there, just tell me where it is and I'll go look at that. But if it's not, I would like to see that information as well.
Sure, it is not in there, and I can get that to you.
And then the third piece is, who's providing, besides you and your staff, SEL for our counselors?
So
that's more of a rhetorical question, but that's been a concern I've had, particularly the last couple of years, knowing all of the demands on their time. And
Thank you.
They wear a pretty big hat. So
thank you. Appreciate it.
Board Member Campbell.
I just have a couple of questions, and I'll share Board Member Fritchie's comments. We appreciate you so much, and just thank you for all you've done for our district and for the kids, all the students of our district, and for me on a personal level. So thank you, appreciate that. You mentioned social emotional, and I know you've shared with us a lot of times what that definition means, but I wonder if there are some parents watching tonight that it may help them to have kind of a definition or a context that when you say social emotional, what does that mean?
Sure, I appreciate the question. Thank you, and thank you for all of your kind words. So to me, and I will share with you that we have a committee that is working on social emotional standards and well-being components in collaboration with many district administrators here, because social emotional learning is really about skill building and making sure that our students have responsible decision making, have social awareness skills, self-management skills. It's interesting. I went and had I sat in on a lesson with one of our counselors, and she was doing a small group. And the first question that she asked them, it's a friendship group trying to help build friendship skills. And she said, being a good friend, does that come naturally, or is that a skill building? And all of those students in that small group said, well, it does come naturally for some, but not for everyone. And she said, and how do you increase that? Well, you have to practice. So social emotional learning are skills, and we have to practice them. And I cannot say as an adult that I always, I need to practice sometimes too. And I won't speak for the other adults in the room, because there are times we get upset, there are times we get angry, and we have to have the self-management and social awareness skills to put them in place. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you sharing that. And so we heard earlier tonight some comments about Panorama. Mm-hmm. And understanding how that data is coming in about our students, and are our counselors able to utilize it? You say how data-driven we are. Is this beneficial around the social emotional piece?
Yes, most definitely. Our school counselors are constantly looking at the data. And remember, Panorama serves our purpose as a district in two ways. It's gathering the voices of our students and staff so that we can see and hear what they feel about what's happening from their perspective. And that is so important, because for so long we hadn't been able to do that. And it's so amazing that we are able to do that. So that's one component of Panorama, is the surveys. The second component is we have been working on response to intervention or response to instruction and multi-tiered system of supports. our teachers need one place to see the data instead of, if I may, Dr. Barger has this spreadsheet, and then Dr. Potts has this spreadsheet, or Dr. Mathis has this spreadsheet. If we can have the data in one dashboard for our teachers to see it, that serves as an early warning system to make sure that our students are not falling through the cracks, and that our teachers can put interventions and supports in place early and not late. So Panorama serves as a twofold for us as a district, and I'm very grateful that you all have approved of that. So thank you.
Thanks. I appreciate you overviewing that again.
Board Member Allen.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Hill, and all your years of service and a variety of different capacities. But you've been here how many years? How many years?
17.
So here at the district? Okay, excellent. To kind of add on to what Ms. Campbell was just mentioning, you had said we're data rich. We use data to study where we need to address concerns. Where do we pull the data? Where are we getting all of this? If we're rich, where are we getting all the different sources of data?
Well, so there's data from Panorama, and that data comes from PowerSchool. So PowerSchool feeds into that. I know Dr. Wright has spoke to you all about NWEA. So that data is integrated into Panorama. So not only are they looking at attendance, grades, SEL, but then the assessments, MAP scores, Ames Web Plus.
And Ames Web is?
Ames Web is after NWEA. If students fall out of the percentile, then there's another screener to assist, and that provides progress monitoring for students in ELA and math.
Okay, and Ames Web is just the name of the source.
Of the source,
the
yes. Sir.
Resource, I should
Yes.
say. Okay,
And so those data components feed into Panorama to allow us to see the whole student. So the academic, the SEL, the attendance, so that we can put in interventions.
Okay, well, I'm going to continue to drill down a little bit. I don't mean to put you on the spot. I think I am, but you skate well out here, and so this is good. So 17 years of experience. This may be personal reflection, but why are all those things so much more important in 2022 than they were in 2012 or even 2017? Because I had an interesting conversation after leaving last night's activity that I was in with a gentleman that is highly much more intellectual than me. He was talking about critical thinking, teaching kids how to learn, how to think, not what to think, how to think. And he said, it amazes me that just over the past 4 years, and this gal up here, the young student, said she's going to be a game designer, right? We're educating kids for jobs that don't even exist. So this idea that what we were doing when I was a young kid in Jeff City is way out of league where we were 100 years ago. So light years, right? 5 years ago, a heck of a lot difference. 3 years ago, a heck of a lot difference. So again, it's your personal reflection, but in 2022, we're using all this data, including Panorama, because...
So I don't think it's any more important than what it was. I mean, I think it's just as important. And when I first started my teaching career so many, many years ago, that was how I taught, to think about the whole student. But maybe I didn't have the social emotional learning name to it, or sometimes we just naturally do things and we don't have the specific skill named for us. That's just how we were raised. You were raised a certain way. We were all raised a certain way. And we did some of those skills without knowing it. I think it's even more important now, because we're coming off of a pandemic. But in my opinion, our social media has had an effect. And while I love my friend here who oversees technology, but technology can be a benefit and it can be a detriment as well. And so because of those things, in my opinion, this is Roxanne Hill, not Dr. Hill, That's to me, it's always been important. There's just a new perspective on it. And, you know, partnering with Shannon Booth and the market value assets, employees and employers are looking for these same skills. So self-management, can you come to work on time? Can you do what you are supposed to? Can you have responsible decision-making? Can you problem solve with your colleagues, and can you collaborate? Those are all aligned together. So if you want to call it social-emotional learning, yes, but it really is about skill building and career development and academics and inquiry learning. It's all together.
Thank you. Thanks to you. Thank you for walking down the path with me a little bit there and giving us Roxanne's
Thank
opinion.
you for the opportunity.
Board Member Campbell.
I just had one last question. I am kind of putting you on the spot a little bit. I know that we've started some discussions and we're in process with Burrell to add some additional counseling opportunities for our students. And so when do you think we'll be talking more and hearing more about that?
Sure, I appreciate the question. Thank you. That is another exciting program that we have available for our students and families. Right now, the 7 schools that are in phase 1, they have submitted their referrals, and we have over 100 referrals that we have sent to Burrell. And Burrell is assessing and meeting with families. I will share we need families to call them back to set up the schedule and set up a time to meet with them. And once they do, consent has been made by the parents, then there's a clinician and a student school-based specialist that meets with the student, not at the same time, but they schedule it at appropriate times during the day with the school and with the student, and they work with the student on those skills and or other things that they are needing assistance with. And so we are looking to continue to get more students into the program, and as we get more students into the program, Burrell will hire more staff. Again, this is at no cost to the district. This is a MOU that you all approved of, and we appreciate that. And then we will start working on phase 2, which will be all of the rest of the secondary buildings. And then after that, we will have a semester phase in for the rest of the schools. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? I get to finish. See, so thank you very much. And for those of you who don't know, Roxanne and I were together at Raytown South for a couple of years, and it was nice to see a familiar face when you went to North, and then we circled back around. So Cardinals to Lee Summit to now. So thank you very much. It's always been a pleasure to know you. So
thank you. Thank you for
Anything
the
else?
opportunity.
Just because you wanted to bring that up, Ms. Hill was also a teacher when I attended Raytown
I was
South.
expecting you to say
And
it.
so I
but
appreciate her.
So, right. It's like, I can't believe he passed on it. Can't believe he passed on it. We have Dr. Shelton back there, so we got it all here. Dr. Hill, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Go Cardinals.
Okay, we are going to move on to item 10. These are our written reports. The last couple of things for this evening: 10.01, the transportation program evaluation; 10.02, the board priorities update. So if there's any comments that people want to make on the written reports, I'm actually going to lead this one off just real fast on the transportation report. Bruce, thank you for the transportation report. But I want to highlight for people the lack of funding that we get for transportation. So if you are wanting to try and help in terms of contacting legislators and stuff like that, when somebody tells you that they are fully funding the foundation formula accurate, are they, then ask the follow-up question. Are they funding the transportation that the State Board of Education has been recommending for our district? And the answer is no, to the tune of almost $4 million. And so I do think that that's really important that we pose those particular questions. I wanted to get to tell him thank you too, and see you stole it. So right. So So anyway, I do think that that's a really important part of the transportation piece that we need to continue to focus on. So I hope everybody will continue to push our legislators to do what they actually are supposed to do by state law. So 75%, and we're at 30%, right? We're at 19 this year. Okay, it's worse. Oh my gosh. Okay, so anyway, Board Member Fritchie.
I second what you said. Thank you. Thanks for that comprehensive report on transportation, Mr. Maples. Very nice. Your staff is greatly appreciated, and especially when they pulled together during those difficult circumstances, such as the absences due to the pandemic. You know, I know that it was all hands on deck for you guys to run those routes with probably very few people left in the office because you had to put office personnel in buses. And so that was truly impressive that only 2 routes, according to his report, only 2 routes were missed during that time frame. So thank you, transportation. I always like reading the findings and reflections of strengths and opportunities for improvement because I truly appreciate your honesty in addressing those issues. You know, I think it's great when each department can look honestly at themselves and go, you know, we're pretty good at this, but we really need to work on this too. And thank you for being very honest about that. And I just wanted to say to all of our transportation employees out there, we support you and we thank you for your dedication and getting our kids safely to and from school. And just thank you so much for that.
Appreciate that, Board Member Fritchie. Board Member Sparks.
And I just will tag on to what Connie Kim said. I think it is important that we're looking at strengths and weaknesses. I necessarily don't like the word weakness. I like the word rooms for opportunity because it's really opportunities for us to grow and to learn. And so I do appreciate the recognition of that. But then also, I think it's important that we highlight the board priorities. You know, it was a little disheartening on yesterday to mix CSIP and board priorities. And so I think for the community, it's important that we understand that the board do set priorities to give leadership and direction for our superintendent. Thank you.
Board Member Campbell, we'll come back to you here.
Are you sure? Okay. And I appreciate about the board priorities. And the one thing that I wanted to highlight in the board priorities update from the schools that was shared, Greenwood Elementary, and I wish the principal was still here because reading through this report, there was actual dinner table conversation at the end of the report. And this question just really stuck with me, and I would just encourage all of us as parents to ask this maybe at the next dinner table conversation. Parent, so what made you happy today? And I just thought that was just a great resounding way to start a good conversation at the dinner table. So I just wanted to highlight and thank the principal at Greenwood Elementary for overall the great updates, but especially that resonated with me.
Thank you for that. Board Member Fritchie.
Yeah, I shout out to Greenwood Elementary as well as Lee Summit Elementary. Those were our 2 schools that were featured this time in our board priorities updates. And I also wanted to, I just love always reading about all the ways that the schools are striving to meet our 3 board priorities that we have. And administrators, also, thank you very much for your updates. And it's, you know, it's kind of cool seeing how they fit together with our CSIP, and that evaluation's coming up very soon.
Board Member Sparks.
I want to end on a positive note. No better way to end with the sign that's in front of us. I think it is an honor to serve with all of my colleagues, and I do believe that LSR7 is moving in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, that will do it for tonight. This meeting is adjourned. Board members, I'll see you back upstairs.